Happy New Year and welcome to the Vault. Hope you're all well. Wishing all of you a prosperous new year and blessings abundantly. Thank you for joining me. My title is an interesting one because we've known people who have been bullied to act out shortly after or later in life. So I put this title in this video because possibly the murders are due to a grown man not dealing with his issues in life, such as rejection, a negative self-ideology. I will bring you content pertaining to bullying, serial killers, mass murderers, and you're entitled to your perception of which box you feel this man fits in. I do not know if he is mentally ill, disturbed, ever been diagnosed with any mental defect. I will also bring you commentary to how a person becomes a killer. Was he or she born this way, such as serial killers, mass murderers, or a product of their environment? They were made into a killer. I've heard commentary recently that perhaps there's a part of the brain that shows some type of malfunction that is prevalent in serial killers. I heard this from an expert the other day. So I'm going to dissect all of that said information. I will do a private upload pertaining to the connection to this case of Mr. Bryan and the victims, but I will mention it also during this live stream. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's get started with the said information, and then I will play audio, and then I will give you my commentary pertaining to the information. The humanityproject.com is the source for this first information. This is the editor's note. The following piece was written by Dr. Laura Finley, who sits on the Humanity Project Board of Directors. She is a professor of sociology and criminology at Barry University. Dr. Finley wrote this article for the Humanity Project. Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy. What do these three notorious men have in common? Obviously, all three were horrific serial killers. Also important, however, is that all three were bullied in school. No doubt there are numerous compelling reasons why families, communities, and schools should be committed to ending bullying. Among these is the fact that bullying in youth is a risk factor for later delinquency and criminal activity. It is not just the bullies who are at greater risk, though. Victims of bullying are also more likely to be involved in some type of criminal activity later in life. The Humanity Project's anti-bullying through the Arts and Humanity Club programs offer effective tools to combat school bullying. Numerous studies conducted across the globe have demonstrated the connection between bullying and crime. One Swedish study found that 55% of school bullies were later convicted of one or more crimes, and 36% had been convicted of at least 3 crimes. A U.S. study found that approximately 60% of boys who were considered bullies as 6th through 9th graders were convicted of at least 1 crime by the age of 24. And this is talking about bullies. Some 40% of the boys had 3 or more criminal convictions. In particular, male bullies who have mental health or psychiatric problems have been found to be far more likely to commit violent crimes as adults. Victims, too, are at greater risk for later criminal activity. Studies have shown victims may act out later in life as a way to feel powerful. Many victims become the aggressor in later altercations in an attempt to preempt presumed aggression by the other party. After the Columbine Massacre in 1999, the U.S. Secret Service reviewed 37 school shootings and found bullying had been a factor in 2/3 of them. Both bullies and victims are more likely than other students, to carry weapons to school, increasing the likelihood of criminal activity on school grounds. Let me repeat that. Both bullies and victims are more likely than other students to carry weapons to school, increasing the likelihood of criminal activity on school grounds. Both bullies and victims are more likely to get involved in intimate relationships that are abusive. Both are more likely to use illegal substances, which you will hear also in my commentary that Bryan Kohberger was a heroin user and also bully. I'm bringing you said information per sources. And both are at far greater risk to commit suicide than the general population. So what can we do? We cannot ignore bullying, chalking up to kids being kids or telling victims that enduring this kind of abuse only makes them stronger, adults must be responsible for teaching young people how to interact with others in peaceful, nonviolent ways. We can do this first and foremost by modeling such behavior ourselves. Very true. We can engage young people in critical conversations about bullying. We can involve them in activities that help transform their school and communities to places of peace, not violence. It is everyone's advantage to ensure that no child becomes a bully or a victim. Thank you so much for joining me. This set information is by the humanityproject.com, and the author of this piece is a Dr. Laura Finley. It has been brought to the public's attention that Bryan was teased as a child. People threw things at him, girls threw things at him in high school. He would run away. And one person has come forward to say they wish they had stopped or intervened, but they did not because he ran away. So how often was he teased in school? It's not to make any excuse for his behavior, because his behavior is unacceptable to go out and murder people. But I put this in my title because naturally it would grab people's attention and make you think that this is a problem here in the United States of why we do have a lot of mass shootings in America. It is because of bullying. It is because children were teased allegedly. There's verification that children were teased, ran home, physically abused by other children. And perhaps this is what was going on in the mind of this 28-year-old adult. He had not forgotten about how he was treated by girls in school, others in school. He is now a socially awkward person as a child growing up, teenager. Now he goes off to college, still socially awkward, but talkative is what we hear from others. But he still never got his bearing in life. You're also going to hear that he seemed like he was trying to fit in. So imagine being a 28-year-old man trying to fit in college, or graduate school rather, because graduate school, you've gone far in life. You've gone far in life. It's not trying to fit in high school, college. You have surpassed all of the wanting to fit in. One second, please. Thank you all so much for joining me. But you do find people who still are trying to fit in. As adults. And that could be a problem. To be an adult trying to find your way, navigate. So imagine how horrible that would be for an adult trying to fit in the graduate program. Almost 30 years of age. So one would say, had he not found his footing in life, he's found a craft of studying psychology, but he has issues. Mental issues. Does he have a mental issue? Is he mentally defective? Is he a schizophrenic, antisocial disorder? Is he a sociopath, psychopath? I'm going to bring you all that information to show you that not all psychopaths kill. Not all sociopaths kill. So each individual is different. Each may have similarities, but all are different and free thinking individuals. And what leads them to decide on this fateful day or farther into life to kill? Very interesting information. Thank you for joining me. Serial killers by state 2023. Worldpopulationreview.com is the source if you need verification for this information. Now, he has not been deemed a serial killer, but I just bring you that information just in case we find out later that he is considered one. They view a serial killer as a person who has committed separate crimes, separate times. So I don't know what category he would fit in, but we will see. So let's just start with the general information. WorldPopulationReview.com is the source. A serial killer is a person who murders 2 or more people in separate events, usually for abnormal psychological gratification, thrill-seeking attention, or financial gain. The FBI differentiates serial killing from mass murder or spree killing by the presence of a cooling off period between victims. Very interesting. For this season, mass murderers such as school shooters and suicide bombers are not included under the umbrella of serial killers. Serial killers are further defined as those committed by 1 or 2 individuals, excluding instances where groups are responsible for deaths. Serial killings are rare, accounting for less than 1% of total homicides. Interesting. In the United States, serial killing was at its highest in the period between 1970 and 2000, when 70% of recorded serial murders occurred. Rates of serial killings have been on the decline since 1990s. While serial killers are not solely a U.S. phenomenon, the majority of serial killers on record have operated at least in part in the United States. Serial murders tend to be lone white males. Most serial killers kill for financial gain or enjoyment. Very interesting now. With 32% on record stating they kill for financial gain. Very interesting. Most people would assume that it would be somebody wanting control, such as sadists who rape and then they later start killing the victims, ask not to have anybody testify against them. So now you're hearing financial gain. So now we would really sit here and ponder, okay, what are you saying? Do serial killers steal from their victims? Yes. But then to say financial gain is very interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. Let me repeat all this again. With 32% on record stating they killed for financial gain and a quarter claiming to have killed for pleasure, anger is cited as the primary motivator for another 18% of serial murders, and gang activity accounts for 6%. So 18% of serial murders say they killed because they were angry. So was or is, let's say, because he's still a human being and living, Bryan Kohberger an angry individual, and he killed these kids because he is angry, mad at the world. Who is he angry with? Who is he mad at? Because so far he's denying accountability for the deaths of these kids, gruesome murders. Wants to be extradited back, which is foolish considering Idaho is a death penalty state. We also will chop that up in this live stream if you feel he should be put to death, if they should put that on the table, if indeed this is considered a federal crime. He also crossed states in his crimes. He lived in Washington and he traveled to Idaho, 15 minutes away, to kill these kids. Serial killers often have a preferred killing method and victim type. Ted Bundy, for example, targeted attractive college-age females and used strangulation as his primary method of killing. Shooting is the most common killing method among serial killers, followed by strangulation and stabbing. Serial killer victims are evenly split between males and females, and the median age of victims is 30. Very interesting. The United States had more serial killers than any other country. A total of 12,746 victims of serial killings were registered nationwide between 1990 and 2020. California has the highest number of serial killings with 1,777 total, followed by Texas with 984. However, due to varied population sizes, these totals do not reflect the states where serial killing is most common. Washington, D.C. has the highest rate of serial killings with 25 victims per 100,000 residents. Alaska has the second highest rate at 7 per 100,000. Louisiana comes in third with 6.5 serial killings per 100,000. So this is very interesting information to have. Washington, D.C., Alaska, Louisiana, Texas, California at number 1. Alaska, that doesn't shock me, because when I was watching the Alaska Daily, which is a series running on Netflix, the first thing I thought was all this vast land to dump a body. And we've learned with serial killing, it really doesn't matter where they get the victim. They will find a way to dispose of the body if indeed they want to take the body from point A to point B, depending on where they murdered the person. But Alaska is vast land, mountainous and water, wooded terrain. So you have a multitude of places to dump a body, the state of Alaska. So it doesn't shock me that Alaska would be ranked high as a serial killing state. Thank you all so much for joining me. Welcome to the Vault. Happy New Year, everybody. Once again, if you need verification for these stats, worldpopulationreview.com is the source. All 50 states have had a notorious serial killer such as Florida's Ted Bundy, Illinois' John Wayne Gacy, and New Jersey's Charles Edmund Cullen. Here are the 10 states with the most total serial killer victims. California, 1,777. Texas, 984. Florida, 933. Illinois, 680. New York, 677. Ohio, 505. Pennsylvania, 462. Michigan, 425. Georgia, 409. Washington, 396. Total of serial killers, 12,746. Highest rate, District of Columbia, 23.61. Lowest rate, Hawaii, 0.88. Very interesting. Let's see, where does Idaho fit on the stats of serial killer victims per 100,000 people? Idaho is damn near to the bottom, followed by West Virginia, Maine, Wyoming, Rhode Island, Delaware, New Hampshire, Hawaii, North Dakota, and Vermont, all small states. But that is the point about crime and the human mind, is that you do not know people, and nowhere is safe so long as a mind is demented and tainted. Very interesting information. Let's go look at Idaho as far as serial killer victims. No disrespect to anybody. So far, Idaho has only had 45. The top number of serial killer victims comes out of the District of Columbia, 169. Alaska, 64. Louisiana, 344. That's a lot. Missouri, 350. Illinois, 680. Just picking out the ones with the highest numbers. California, naturally, 1,777. Florida, 933. 933. Georgia, 409. New York, 677. Texas, 984. If you need a listing, once again, worldpopulationreview.com is the source of this information if you want to read the stats for yourself. So California has the highest number of victims. And that is something I have noticed with serial killing, is that the Pacific Northwest, West Coast tended to have the most serial killers working and victims. As you see here, 1,077. That's almost 1,800. And then you have to factor in the people who've been murdered that have been done by a serial killer and have not been connected by law enforcement or the FBI. Because Samuel Little killed many women, and it wasn't until he was apprehended and he decided to share his killings with law enforcement is when they decided to start investigating and pulling up cold cases, and they began to claim women on the roster. So this is why I'm saying there are many people missing and also been found dead, but have not been linked to a serial killer. So imagine all the people that went missing and or were found dead and not claimed by anyone, or law enforcement didn't put a connection to a perpetrator. And we've learned this also with Gacy, watching the Gacy tapes off of Netflix. Someone has just been identified, I believe a year ago, as a victim of John Wayne Gacy. Thank you for joining me. Let's get into the mind of a serial killer. And this is not to say that he is a serial killer, but it's just to bring you a little synopsis of the said information. Thank you for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $Beganji, 129 Cash App. All stickers and chats are welcome during this live stream. I've brought you information from the Humanity Project and also World Population Review on stats of serial killers and victims. Now we'll bring you information from the FBI.gov. It is very winded, so if you need to verify anything I've said in this commentary, please log on to serialmurder-FBI.gov. I'm going to breeze through this as best I can because it's very winded, and I don't want to spend my entire evening reading everything because the file is too long. So I'm going to skim through just to bring you the basics from the FBI. This is basically, I think, a database for those who were studying in law enforcement. Okay, let's read this top part here. A growing trend that compounds the fallacies surrounding serial murder is the talking heads phenomenon. Given credibility by the media, these self-proclaimed authorities profess to have expertise in serial murder. They appear frequently on television and in the print media and speculate on the motive for the murders and the characteristics of the possible offender, without being privy to the facts of the investigation. Unfortunately, inappropriate comments may perpetuate misperceptions concerning serial murder and impair law enforcement's investigative efforts. It was decided by a majority of the attendees to issue a formal statement of position regarding the media's use of these types of individuals. The position statement is included in Section X of this monograph. The relative rarity of serial murder combined with inaccurate anecdotal information and fictional portrayals of serial killers has resulted in the following common myths and misconceptions regarding serial murder. Myth number 1, serial killers are all dysfunctional loners. The majority of serial killers are not reclusive, social misfits who live alone. They are not monsters and may not appear strange. Many serial killers hide in plain sight with their communities. Serial murderers often have families and homes, are gainfully employed, and appear to be normal members of the community. Because many serial murderers can blend in so effortlessly, they are oftentimes overlooked by law enforcement and the public. Robert Yates killed 17 prostitutes in Spokane, Washington area during the 1990s. He was married with 5 children, lived in middle-class neighborhood, and was a decorated U.S. Army National Guard helicopter pilot. During the time period of the murders, Yates routinely patronized prostitutes, and several of his victims knew each other. Yates buried one of his victims in his yard beneath his bedroom window. Yates was eventually arrested and pled guilty to 13 of the murders. The Green River Killer, Gary Ridgway, confessed to killing 48 women over a 20-year time period in the Seattle, Washington area. He had been married 3 times and was still married at the time of his arrest. He was employed as a truck painter for 32 years. He attended church regularly, read the Bible at home and at work, and talked about religion with co-workers. Ridgway also frequently picked up prostitutes and had sex with them throughout the time period in which he was killing. The BTK killer, Dennis Rader, killed 10 victims in and around Wichita, Kansas. He sent 16 written communications to the news media over a 30-year period, taunting the police and the public. He was married with 2 children, Boy Scout leader, served honorably in the U.S. Air Force, was employed as a local government official, and was president of his church. Myth number 2, serial killers are all white males. Contrary to popular belief, serial killers span all racial groups. There are white, African-American, Hispanic, Asian serial killers. The racial diversification of serial killers generally mirrors that of the overall U.S. population. Charles Ng, a native of Hong Kong, China, killed numerous victims in Northern California in concert with Robert Lake. Please check out this information with Mr. Ng and Mr. Lake. Very scary. I've watched the documentary many moons ago, and every time I watch it, it just gives me the chills. This documentary pertaining to Ng and Lake. It's very winded and long. It's one of the longest running trials in America pertaining to Mr. Ng, because he was very smart to keep prolonging going before a 12-member jury, because he knew he was guilty and he knew eventually he possibly would be facing the death penalty. So he prolonged, changing lawyers, acting out, very crazy, neurotic person. Derek Todd Lee, an African-American, killed at least 6 women in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Coral Eugene Watts, an African-American, killed 5 victims in Michigan, fled the state to avoid detection, and murdered another 12 victims in Texas before being apprehended. Rafael Resendez Ramirez, a native of Mexico, murdered 9 people in Kentucky, Texas, and Illinois before turning himself in. Rory Conde, a Colombian native, was responsible for 6 prostitutes' homicides in Miami, Florida area. Myth number 3. Serial killers are only motivated by sex. All serial murders are not sexually based. There are many other motivations for serial murders, including anger, thrill, financial gain, and attention seeking. Could it be possible that our killer, Mr. Bryan, was seeking attention? Studying psychology, graduate program, decided, let me see what it's like. I'm talking about this every day. I do not know what profession he was going to try to go in with the psychology, if he was going to try to be a teacher or instructor or a psychologist or whichsoever. So what was the motivation? In Washington, D.C. area, serial sniper case John Allen Muhammad, and I speak of this case very often due to the fact that they gave information about the suspect's car, but they let the public believe it was a witness. Or did you just see the car? Let us know something. All right. Former U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Lee Boyd Malvo, this is the young boy that he took under his wing, killed primarily for anger and thrill motivations. They were able to terrorize the greater Washington, D.C. metro area for 3 weeks, shooting 13 victims, killing 10 of them. They communicated with the police by leaving notes, and they attempted to extort money to stop the shootings. They are suspected in a number of other shootings in 7 other states. Very interesting. Dr. Michael Sawango, a former U.S. Marine ambulance worker and physician, was a healthcare employee. He was convicted of only 4 murders in New York and Ohio, although he is suspected of having poisoned and killed 35 to 50 people throughout the United States and on the continent of Africa. Swango's motivation for the killings was intrinsic and never fully identified. Interestingly, Swango kept a scrapbook filled with newspaper and magazine clippings about natural disasters in which many people were killed. Paul Reed killed at least 7 people during fast food restaurant robberies in Tennessee. After gaining control of the victims, he either stabbed or shot them. The motivation for the murders was primarily witness elimination. Reed's purpose in committing the robberies was financial gain, and some of the ill-gotten gains were used to purchase a car. So I see what they mean by financial gains, such as with robbery. They're going person to person, business, home, robbing the people, killing them, then boom, go to the next location, steal a car, go over here, go over there. So I get that. The next myth, all serial murderers travel and operate interstate. Most serial killers have very defined geographic areas of operation. They conduct their killings within comfort zones that are often defined by an anchor point, place of residence, employment, residence of a relative. Serial murderers will at times spiral their activities outside of their comfort zone, which that is what this Mr. Bryan did. When their confidences has grown through experience or to avoid detection. Very few serial murderers travel interstate to kill. Now, most of us would probably think a person would travel, depending on their job title, such as a truck driver. He or she will be an easy person to kill because they're going from location to location. They're not seen in a place very long, depending on their stayover. So here you hear that very few serial killers travel interstate. Okay? And that serial murders will at times spiral their activities outside of their comfort zone when their confidence has grown through experience or to avoid detection. So which one does Bryan fall under? He went over to Idaho as not to be detected in Washington, or he's already done this before. He's gotten cocky, and this time he decided to take down damn near a whole house full of women and one guy. And he had 2 left. So we have to ask ourselves, why were the 2 remaining? Did he know of the two in the house? Did he even try to go to their doors that night? Very interesting information. Itinerant individuals who move from place to place. These are the myths. Homeless individuals who are transients. Individuals whose employment lends itself to interstate or transnational travel, such as truck drivers or those in the military service. The difference between these types of offenders and other serial murderers is the nature of their traveling lifestyle, which provides them with many zones of comfort in which to operate. So these are just myths that people assume pertaining to serial killers. Another myth, serial killers cannot stop killing, and most of us probably believe this. It has been widely believed that once serial killers start killing, they cannot stop. There are, however, some serial killers who stop murdering altogether before being caught. In these instances, there are events or circumstances in offenders' lives that inhibit them from pursuing more victims. These can include increased participation in family activities, sexual substitution, and other diversions. Very interesting. BTK killer Dennis Rader. Perfect. This is a perfect example because he went years and had stopped. Murdered 10 victims from 1974 to 1991. He did not kill any other victims prior to being captured in 2005. That's a long time. That's a long time. That's over 10 years. During interviews conducted by law enforcement, Rader admitted to engaging in autoerotic activities as a substitute for his killing. So what would that be? Autoerotic. Watching porn on the internet, going to not snuff films, but going to places where they house pornography, strip bars. What are we talking about? Jeffrey Gordon killed his first victim in 1986 and his next victim in 1991. He did not kill another victim and was captured in 2002. Gordon engaged in cross-dressing and masturbatory activities as well as consensual sex with his wife in the interim. So here is a man that only killed allegedly what? 2 people, 5-year span. Okay? So 86, he killed somebody in 91. Then it says he did not kill another victim and was captured in 2002. So you're talking about 11 years went by before he was caught. Only killed 2 people. And those 2 people were 5 years apart. So he stopped in 91 allegedly and didn't get apprehended until 2002. And he goes on to say he had consensual sex with his wife in the interim. Well, that's been known with most killers. They still perform sexually some type of way with another human being if they're able to, but yet the desire, I'm assuming, is still there to want to take a life. All serial killers are insane or are evil geniuses. Another myth that exists is that serial killers have either a debilitating mental condition or they are extremely clever and intelligent. As a group, serial killers suffer from a variety of personality disorders, including psychopathic, antisocial personality, and others. Most, however, are not adjudicated as insane under the law. Well, naturally, they're not, because whenever you're trying to cover up a crime, that shows you have willful intent and you know what you're doing. A crazed person, schizophrenic, what might just sit there with the dead person. You understand what I'm saying? But when you're making a way to cover up the crimes, that shows you know what you're doing. The media has created a number of fictional serial killer geniuses who outsmart law enforcement at every turn. Like other populations, however, serial killers range in intelligence from borderline to above average levels. Next myth, serial killers want to get caught. Offenders committing a crime for the first time are inexperienced. They gain experience and confidence with each new offense, eventually succeeding with few mistakes or problems. While most serial killers plan their offenses more thoroughly than other criminals, the learning curve is still very steep. They must select, target, approach, control, and dispose of their victims. The logistics involving in committing a murder and disposing of the body can become very complex, especially when there are multiple sites involved. As serial killers continue to offend without being captured, they can become empowered, feeling they will never be identified. As the series continues, the killers may begin to take shortcuts when committing their crimes. This often causes the killers to take more chances, leading to identification by law enforcement. It is not the serial killers want to get caught. They feel that they can't get caught. Very well said. Definition of serial murder. In the past 30 years, multiple definitions of serial murder have been used by law enforcement, clinicians, academia, and researchers. While these definitions do share several common themes, they differ on specific requirements such as the number of murders involved, the types of motivation, and the temporal aspects of the murders. To address these discrepancies, attendees at the Serial Murder Symposium examined the variations in order to develop a single definition for serial murder. Previous definitions of serial murder specified a certain number of murders varying from 2 to 10 victims. This quantitative requirement distinguished the serial murder from other categories of murder, i.e. single, double, or triple murder. Most of the definitions also required a period of time between the murders. This break-in time was necessary to distinguish between a mass murder and a serial murder. Serial murder required a temporal separation between the different murders, which was described as separate occasions, cooling off period, and emotional cooling off period. So where does our Mr. Bryan fit into this separate occasion, cooling off period, and emotional cooling off period? Is this his first offense? Just wondering. Generally, mass murder was described as a number of murders, 4 or more occurring during the same incident. So this means he will possibly be considered a mass murderer if we do not find out he has killed any other people at separate times, persons at a separate time. So perhaps he's defined as a mass murderer. Once again, mass murder was described as a number of murders, 4 or more, occurring during the same incident, with no distinctive time period between the murders. These events typically involve a single location, which this is what happened with these kids. They all were killed in the same house, where the killer murdered a number of victims in an ongoing incident. 1984 San Ysidro McDonald's incident in San Diego, California. The 1991 Luby's Restaurant Massacre in Killeen, Texas, and the 2007 Virginia Tech murders in Blacksburg, Virginia. There has been at least one attempt to formalize the definition of serial murder through legislation. In 1998, a federal law was passed by the United States Congress titled Protection of Children from Sexual Predator Act of 1988, Title 18, United States Code, Chapter 51, Section 1111. This law includes a definition of serial killings. The term serial killings means a series of 3 or more killings, not less than one of which was committed within the United States, having common characteristics such as to suggest the reasonable possibility that the crimes were committed by the same actor or actors. Although the federal law provides a definition of serial murder, it is limited in its application. The purpose of this definition was to set forth criteria establishing when the FBI could assist local law enforcement agencies in their investigation of serial murder cases. It was not intended to be a generic definition for serial murder. The symposium attendees reviewed the previous definitions and extensively discussed the pros and cons of the numerous variations. The consensus of the symposium attendees was to create a simple but broad definition designed for the use primarily by law enforcement. So that's just going over which is which. Let's go to number 3, the casualty of a serial killer. Following the arrest of a serial killer, the question is always asked, how did this person become a serial murderer? The answer lies in the development of the individual from birth to adulthood. Specifically, the behavior of a person displays is influenced by life experiences, biological factors. Serial murderers, like all human beings, are the product of their heredity, their upbringing, and the choices they make throughout development. casuality as it relates to development of serial murders was discussed at length by the symposium attendees. Casuality or causality, I'm pronouncing it correctly, can be defined as a complex process based on biological, social, and environmental factors. In addition to these factors, individuals have the ability to choose to engage in certain behaviors. Exactly. The collective outcome of all these influences separates individual behavior from generic human behavior, since it is not possible to identify all of the factors that influence normal human behavior. It similarly is not possible to identify all of the factors that influence an individual to become a serial murderer. Human beings are in a constant state of development from the moment of conception until death. Behavior is affected by stimulation received and processed by the central nervous system. Neurobiologists believe that our nervous systems are environmentally sensitive, thereby allowing individual nervous systems to be shaped throughout a lifetime. The development of social coping mechanisms begins early in life and continues to progress as children learn to interact, negotiate, compromise with their peers. In some individuals, the failure to develop adequate coping mechanisms results in violent behavior. Neglect and abuse in childhood have been shown to contribute to an increased risk of future violence. Substance abuse can and does lead to increased aggression and violence. We did hear that he has used heroin back in high school from a young lady. I will bring you that commentary as well. Symposium attendees agreed that there is no single identifiable cause or factor that leads to the development of a serial killer. Rather, there are a multitude of factors that contribute to their development. The most significant factor is the serial killer's personal decision in choosing to pursue their crimes. These were the observations made by the attendees regarding causality. Predisposition to serial killing, much like other violent offenses, is biological, social, psychological in nature, and it is not limited to any specific characteristic or trait. The development of a serial killer involves a combination of these factors, which exist together in a rare confluence in certain individuals. They have the appropriate biological predisposition, molded by their psychological makeup, which is present at a critical time in their social development. There are no specific combinations of traits or characteristics shown to differentiate serial killers from other violent offenders. There is no generic template for a serial killer. Serial killers are driven by their own unique motives and reasons. Serial killers are not limited to any specific demographic groups, such as their sex, age, race, or religion. The majority of serial killers who are sexually motivated eroticize violence during development. For them, violence and sexual gratification are inexplicably intertwined in their psyche. More research is needed to identify specific pathways of development that produce serial killers. Psychopathy and the serial murder. Attendees at this serial murder symposium agree that there is no generic profile of a serial murderer. Serial killers differ in many ways, including their motivations for killing and their behavior at the crime scene. However, attendees did identify certain traits common to some serial murderers, including sensation seeking, a lack of remorse or guilt, impulsivity, the need for control, and predatory behavior. These traits and behaviors are consistent with the psychopathic personality disorder. Attendees felt it was very important for law enforcement and other professionals in the criminal justice system to understand psychopathy and its relationship to serial murder. Psychopathy is a personality disorder manifested in people who use a mixture of charm, manipulation, intimidation, and occasionally violence to control others in order to satisfy their own selfish needs. Although the concept of psychopathy has been known for centuries, Dr. Robert Hare led the modern research effort to develop a series of assessment tools to evaluate the personality traits and behaviors attributable to psychopaths. Okay. Dr. Hare and his associates developed the psychopathic checklist revised PCL-R, and basically this is what they've come up with. These instruments measure the distinct cluster of personality traits and socially deviant, deviant behaviors of an individual, which fall into four factors: interpersonal, effective, lifestyle, and antisocial. This is his clinical assessment of the degree of psychopathy in the individual that they possess. The interpersonal traits include glibness, superficial charm, a grandiose sense of self-worth, pathological lying, ooh, mercy, that's a good one, and the manipulation of others. The affective traits include a lack of remorse and or guilt, shallow affect, a lack of empathy, in most definitely, and failure to accept responsibility. The lifestyle behaviors include stimulation-seeking behavior, impulsivity, irresponsibility, parasitic or orientation, and a lack of realistic life goals. The antisocial behaviors include poor behavioral controls, early childhood behavior problems, juvenile delinquency, revocation of conditional release, and criminal versatility. The combination of these individual personality traits, interpersonal styles, and socially deviant lifestyles are the framework of psychopathy and can manifest themselves differently in individual psychopaths. Researchers demonstrated that in those offenders who are psychopathic, scores vary, ranging from a high degree of psychopathy to some measure of psychopathy. Good Lord. It's crazy. However, not all violent offenders are psychopaths, and not all psychopaths are violent offenders. Interesting. If violent offenders are psychopathic, they are able to assault, rape, and murder without concern for legal, moral, or social consequences. This allows them to do what they want whenever they want. The relationship between psychopathy and serial killers is particularly interesting. All psychopaths do not, repeat, do not become serial murderers. Rather, serial murderers may possess some or many of the traits consistent with psychopathy. Psychopaths who commit serial murder do not value human life and are extremely callous in their interactions with their victims. This is particularly evident in sexually motivated serial killers who repeatedly target, stalk, assault, and kill without a sense of remorse. However, psychopathy alone does not explain the motivations of a serial killer. Understanding psychopathy becomes particularly critical to law enforcement during a serial murder investigation and upon the arrest of a psychopathic serial killer. The crime scene behavior of psychopaths is likely to be distinct from other offenders. This distinct behavior can assist law enforcement in linking serial cases. So we will wait and see if he's done any other crimes, Mr. Bryan. Psychopaths are not sensitive to altruistic interview themes such as sympathy for their victims or remorse, guilt over their crimes. They do possess certain personality traits that can be exploited, particularly their inherent narcissism, selfishness, and vanity. Specific themes in past successful interviews of psychopathic serial killers focus on praising their intelligence, cleverness, and skill in evading capture. Now, you will hear that some people had different comments pertaining to Bryan as smart, nice, talkative, intelligent, awkward, so on and so forth. Motivations, types of serial murder. They range from simple, definitive models to complex, multiple category typologies that are laden with inclusion requirements. Most typologies are too cumbersome to be utilized by law enforcement during an active serial murder investigation, and they may not be helpful in identifying an offender. This is just be skimming over a little bit because it's a lot. Identifying motivations in the investigation of a crime is a standard procedure for law enforcement. Typically, motivation provides police with the means to narrow the potential suspect pool. And as you see, they found their suspect. The same logical steps are taken when investigating homicide cases. As most homicides are committed by someone known to the victim, police focus on the relationships closest to the victim. This is a successful strategy for most murder investigations. The majority of serial murderers, however, are not acquainted with or involved in a consensual relationship with their victims. Once again, the majority of serial murderers, however, are not acquainted with or involved in a consensual relationship with their victims. For the most part, serial murder involves strangers with no visible relationship between the offender and the victim. This distinguishes a serial murder investigation as a more nebulous undertaking than that of other crimes, since the investigations generally lack an obvious connection between the offender and the victim. Investigators instead attempt to discern the motivations behind the murders as a way to narrow their investigative focus. You will hear that pertaining to this case, that there was some type of watching of social media accounts by Bryan of Maddie and Kaylee. When I get more information to that, I will bring it to you. Serial murder crime scenes can have bizarre features that may cloud the identification of a motive. The behavior of a serial murderer at crime scenes may evolve throughout the series of crimes and manifest different interactions between an offender and a victim. It is also extremely difficult to identify a single motivation when there is more than one offender involved in the series. And that is something that is now coming out about the father being along for the ride back to Pennsylvania, which is very disturbing to me. So we have to ask ourselves, with that new information, where was his father during the crimes? Was his father on Washington soil when he killed the kids? Number two, was he in the car? Was he in the house? Did he conspire with his son? Did he know of the murders? Or did he call his father after the fact in needing help driving home? So then you have to ask yourself the obvious question. How did he get from Pennsylvania to Washington to attend the graduate program? Did you buy the car in Washington State, or you drove it from Pennsylvania to Washington? And how long has he been following the girls on social media, if this is true? And one's also going to ask, why did he choose this graduate program versus a school on the East Coast? What if we find out he's been watching and stalking these girls for more than a year and deliberately chose Washington State to harm these kids? That would be very disturbing. Thank you for joining me. Sorry that was so winded. That's by the FBI. If you need verification for that information, thank you so much for joining me. FBI.gov, everybody's the source. Let's hear from the chief, what he has to say about the arrest of Mr. Kohberger. Thank you for joining me. Got a lot of information. It's a bit winded today, but I wanted to bring you everything pertaining to this case. I probably should have chopped this video up a little bit. A lot of people are speaking out. He's got onset of spoken, classmate from high school, a guy that ran with him, a guy that asked him to run with him. A lot of information. Who is this mad person? I was trying to find where he spoke, but I can't find it now. Yeah, it's a lot release, honey. And I can't find what I'm looking for. The chief speaking, or somebody was speaking. Well, they've got so much information out now. One second. They also have him on suicide watch, for those who did not know that. Very interesting. Also, a video of him. Some people say yes, some people may say no, of him talking about being a relative of the victims. I heard that a week or so ago. I just thought that was strange to me. Very strange. Let's see what the captain has to say. I could have sworn the captain was an older man, but this is a very young guy speaking. This was uploaded 7 hours ago. Associated Press is the source. Thank you for joining me.
Police department believes that the person we have in custody, which would be Kohberger, is the one who is responsible for these crimes. We are still continuing to investigate. Certainly, we're looking into all aspects, but he has been named as our suspect, and we believe he is the one that is responsible.
As most of you know, he was arrested on Friday in Pennsylvania with the connection of the fatal stabbings.
A suspect. We're going to be investigating every aspect of him that we can absolutely find out. And that's why we asked yesterday for the public's help, and we got 400 phone calls within the first hour after the press conference, which is great. But we're trying to build this picture now of him, who he is, his history, how we got to this event, why this event occurred. The city of Moscow is a very safe place to live, and always has been since I've lived here. And the unfortunate aspect of an event like this is that it just continues to show that these horrible, horrible things can happen anywhere.
Kohberger's defense attorney says he plans to waive an extradition hearing so he can be brought back quickly to Idaho to face murder charges. That should happen maybe possibly by Tuesday. Hopefully, that's what they're hoping for. It's Tuesday, have him on Idaho soil. But the interesting thing I heard Bryan mention earlier, it's very crazy to me, is that it was asked about his demeanor since being in jail. And it has been said that allegedly he's been staring off into space, has a blank stare on his face. Could it be that he's in shock that he's actually in jail? He ain't getting out, no bond there or in Idaho, or is this a ruse to make it look like he's crazy? So then one could say, well, he can't be trying to play crazy because he knows what he did and he's wanting to waive extradition. So what's to play crazy about? If you didn't do it, then you don't have to act like you didn't do it. Very interesting. Very interesting information. Thank you for joining me, everybody. I'm going to try to find that. Hold on one second. Because I thought I had it in my Rolodex. Now I can't find it for some reason. I got all this other stuff, but not that video. That's strange. One second. Thank you for joining me. I guess we'll play a little bit of News Nation. This is where a Moscow police chief speaks about the arrest of Mr. Kohberger. If you'd like to join me up here, I will drop the link so you can give your opinion pertaining to the arrest of Bryan C. Kohberger and his motives? And who is he? And do you think this is a acting out of being bullied as a child, bullied in high school, not getting attention from women? I also got information today that he was home a couple months ago at some type of brewery, and somebody put him on the radar out there to watch him while being in this establishment, flirting with women and saying things. And he never returned. So is this him lashing out? Nobody's ever liked me. People tease me, made fun of me. The women don't like me. I'm socially awkward. I'm saying things I don't have any business saying to people. We also hear from classmates saying he said some things out of turn to some people, turned them off. I'd like to know what those words were. Is this an issue of him being bullied and he just lashed out? Thank you for joining me.
Now been 24 hours since that name, Bryan Kohberger, has started making the rounds. You guys have publicized it. Are the tips coming?
Happy New Year, everybody.
I can say that the one fact I do know is they told me an hour into us releasing the name, we had over 400 people calling in. So we continue to ask for that. We continue to ask for more. Every tip, everybody that knew him is only going to help us.
Are these tips from here, from everywhere?
I don't know where they came from. If it's any indicative of this case, they've come from all over the nation.
Okay. Your ask about the white Elantra, that came on December 7th or so. Where in the timeline, can you tell us, did Kohberger come onto the radar?
That's all part of those pieces that we have to hold until we can release information with after he gets to Idaho and the release of that information. But we're bound to hold that.
But when you asked for public information about that Elantra, you said the occupants of that car may have critical information. Is plural. Was there a reason for that?
Well, it's part of our investigation. I said early on that we're not going to let any stone go unturned. And I meant that. And we're following up on everything. Just like we're in this new phase now. And we're going to follow up to get to know who he is and everything about him that we can.
There are reports that the Elantra was followed across the country. Can you elaborate on that or speak to that? And also reports of DNA, his DNA at the motor scene.
All those facts are still sealed. They will come out. I know people are anxious for that. And we will have the answers to that. But in the time that we can give it. So I ask once again, just be patient. I know I've asked that a lot of times, but we are bound by the law now.
It's been reported, and we have sources who have told us that Kohberger asked, was anyone else arrested upon his arrest? Have you been able to gather information about when he was taken into custody?
All that information will come out as well. It's part of that investigation. It's part of that next step. So.
Okay. The car, the white Elantra, 2015, is it the car? And is the search over now for any more white Elantras?
We believe it is the car.
Okay. Is it in Pennsylvania now? Yes. Okay. And is it done being processed?
I don't know if it's done, but it will be processed.
Okay. As you know, I was over at Wazoo yesterday at Kohberger's apartment. As the search warrant was being executed, a lot of evidence coming out of there.
I bet it was.
Talk about,
Lord.
What might be valuable.
I think every piece is valuable. And I don't even know what was collected at this point in time. And that's part of that further investigation that we're going to hold. But I know that the search warrant was served there.
We know that the murder weapon has not been found. Is there suspicion that it could have been there?
We don't know. Like I said, we're collecting everything. We're doing our due diligence. And that's why we get these search warrants, so that everything is secured in the court, through the court system, and that we have the right to be where we're at.
You said in a local TV interview, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, that you're still waiting for forensics results to come back. When did they come back? And was that the missing link for Kohberger?
We're still waiting for stuff to come back. We're still looking at everything. We're still having things processed. And I couldn't verify that right now anyway. That's part of that sealed piece. But there's still items coming in from the lab.
From the murder scene?
Correct.
Okay, so the evidence we saw being gathered yesterday, that could take just as long.
That will be new information that we've collected, and we'll be processing that as well.
I asked you during the press conference yesterday about the house cleaning. I mean, you had said in your announcement that the house is going to be cleaned and turned back over to the management company. We watched those trucks come in, and then they pulled out of there real fast. What happened?
Like you said, we got a phone call that it was through the court that we needed to stop and give a little bit more time, so we did that. So,
why was the decision made to release the house?
But at that point in time, we were ready to start that process. And then the court, like I said, someone from the court asked us to stop that process, so we did. And we'll continue to do as we're asked there, and we'll start the cleanup as soon as we can again.
Why would the court want that process stopped? Or,
it could be many reasons. Could be for the defense counsel. It could be that they just want to hold it for a little bit. But it was a decision from the court.
So it will remain under guard. Should we refer to it as an active crime scene?
It's still our crime scene at this point, so yeah, it'll still be under security.
Okay. I think because of this community, it's a small community, is a factor that a jury pool in this community would be harder to gather with more information out there.
And that is one of the reasons that I stated that we are holding everything close and we're protecting the integrity of the case. We want unbiased individuals in this case. We want people to not know all the facts so that if there's a jury selected from here, that we can get that.
How hard would that be? Tell us a bit about, Moscow and how tight, because everybody knows everybody.
I'm not sure,
That's just the basic synopsis. That's like 6 minutes into it. Naturally, he can't give any information, just like he didn't before Chief Fry, because they want to hold everything to the vest in this case. I'm going to go ahead and give my commentary. If you want to verify this information, News Nation is the source. DNA has linked Kohberger to the crime scene. Still working on evidence. Court halted the cleanup. Why? Defense attorney move. Something they learned about Kohberger. What's the truth? The fact that he mentioned others arrested. Was this a ruse to try to throw the detectives off? Or there is somebody else? Because you got to remember at the beginning of the storyline pertaining to the car, when the news bulletin got out about the vehicle, they mentioned LE occupants. Then you'd read something that would change and say occupant. So did somebody see more than one person in this car? Because he now tells you that the car found in Pennsylvania, they don't give an exact location where in Pennsylvania, but it was found. It is believed to belong to Bryan. We also hear that his father drove him back from Washington to Pennsylvania. So, damn, was he involved? The father. Was the father there before the crime? Was he there at the crime scene? Did he help his child in any way? Did he help kill the kids, conspire? What are we talking about here? Because this is not good. It's one thing just to hear, oh, did you arrest anybody else? But then you hear that the father drove him back. We also got information that he finished his studies for this semester in the graduate program. This is his first year in the PhD program if you need verification. He's also somebody's assistant, a professor's assistant. So we have verification from other students. He went to school normally after killing these kids. So that means he did not leave out right away. So what date did he leave? Did he leave the date that the bulletin went out, which I believe was on a Monday? Did he leave out then? So then you got to ask yourself, what would have spawned the father to fly all the way across the country from one coast to the other Because you're talking about like 2,500 miles. What would possess this father to come way over to Washington State to help his grown-ass son drive a car back to the East Coast? I'll wait. And then they live way up in the mountains. Queen is woke. See, I listen to everything. I watch the wordings. That's why they always tell you to pay attention to the wordings used in a news broadcast by law officials. Because there's a little bit of tea in the wording, which I think most of us should know that anyway. When you listen to people talk, there's a little bit of tea in the wording. So occupants will lead one to believe somebody saw more than one person in this damn car. And I would hate to find out that Bryan had help that night. Now, many people are speculating he did it by himself. As you heard in the commentary of me reading all that information from the FBI database, don't assume stuff. People speaking on behalf of the killer, they can't speak on behalf of Bryan because they don't know Bryan. And everybody's not an expert. You may have worked in a law official capacity, but you don't know Bryan. You don't know the logistics of the case. You don't know what's at the crime scene. You don't know what was there. You don't know the evidence taken. So you really can't say who Bryan is and what he did and if he had help, if he worked alone, his mindset, because daddy being in Washington is very suspect because you have to use deduction of when he purchased his car. Bring it to him, Queens. They ain't ready for it now. When did Bryan purchase that Hyundai Elantra? Did he bring it from Pennsylvania in August to Washington soil, or did he fly in and bought the car in Washington? Because it is said that it's registered, I believe, Washington, the car. So one would have to ask, did he change tags from Pennsylvania to Washington tags, or he bought the car in Washington? And still explain why he finished his coursework after killing these kids, which means he's devoid of emotion and no empathy. Why was his father here? When did the father come? Did the father come when he found out about the damn news bulletin about the car? So that means if it's true, he called his father to come. Then what excuse did he give? I'm sick. I don't feel well. I need to go home for Christmas. Please come pick me up. But then you're still talking about a lot of money to fly from the East Coast to the West Coast just to help somebody drive back to the East Coast. So let's go there. Whatever reason he gave, how the fuck is that car supposed to make it back to Washington soil if he's supposed to be coming back? Boom, bingo card. You better wake up. Queen's woke. I've been woke. Make it make sense. Ring, 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 ring. Hello, yes, I'm not feeling well. I want to come home for Christmas, but my tummy aches. Daddy, can you fly out here and help me drive back to Pennsylvania? Sure, I'll fly out tonight. Anybody listening? Because maybe these people aren't so well equipped mentally either. Naturally, they're telling Bryan in to get off the property. They don't want nobody on the property. I hear they broke out the glass. I guess, FBI, marshals, whoever. Hell yeah, they coming in there one way or the other. I don't need your permission. I got a warrant. We got a warrant. Wake up. Imagine that. Just imagine what they were looking like, seeing all those people standing out there. And that's not even counting. They followed him to the East Coast, which I ain't never heard of no mess like that before. Who follows a person 2,500 miles? Do you know how far that is? And you mean to tell me you're a killer and you don't realize somebody followed you from Washington down the damn highway? I'm talking about still in the damn state. I don't know how far in Idaho it is, Washington, Idaho, or whichever direction they went. But you ain't noticed these same cars following you. You stop to get gas, rest stop, motel, hotel, Holiday Inn. You don't notice the same damn car in the parking lot. Bring it to him, Quay. 37.7 hours to be exact, Brittany. And who's going to not stop to get gas, eat, use the restroom, sleep? That's why you need somebody to drive, wouldn't you? Because you might get sleepy, tired. So I need somebody else to help me drive. Because 40 hours of driving is too much for anybody. I don't give a damn if you're resting. Still a lot of driving. Especially if you're not a driver. Stay woke, everybody. Who's the target? How did he find the kids? Public posts. You do know that when you have a public platform such as Facebook, if your settings is on public, whatever you post, anybody can see. So let's just say I was looking up something about Idaho or what to do in Idaho. And then, boom, here comes Kaylee, Maddie's, Ethan's, whoever's post about the grub bus, the bar. Now I've got you in full view just to see your posts, your pictures, what you're talking about. Now I hit your profile, bingo card. It's public. So now I get a bullseye view of who you are, where you live. God forbid you put all that on your damn Facebook page. This is why you've got to be careful what you post to social media. Please tell me that some of you all don't have all them damn boxes filled on your Facebook page. Where you live, where you from, birthday, blah, blah, blah. You better stop that. Because who's to say this is how you found them? He could have just been browsing, pulling up any old random information, and these kids' posts came up. See, you could just type in Idaho killings or anything, and then other people share pops up when they shared the post. So we're going to see how he came to know of these kids. Visits to Moscow. He's got a ticket in Latau County for seatbelt violation. Now, Bryan, you know the law says you have to wear your seatbelt. And this is the dirty South where I live, and they will fine you for not wearing your seatbelt, buddy. So what were you doing in Latau County? Were you out looking and hunting then for your victims? Very interesting. Cohorts. Once again, daddy in town to drive him back. When did the daddy show up to help his son drive back to Pennsylvania? Did somebody see two people in the car or more? FBI following him across country. Very strange to me. Very, very strange. I hear that he finished his schoolwork. He's a PA assistant. Has his own office. Once again, was the daddy here before the murders? Was the daddy here during the murders? Did the daddy help in the murders? Conspire, drive away, getaway driver? What is the daddy's role? Who else is involved? Motive for visiting. As I said, flying is expensive. Reason for needing the daddy to help him drive back. You all better stay woke. His DNA is at the scene. They got that back quick. So we got to ask the date and the time of when the information came in about the Elantra. And following him to get his DNA means the obvious. They followed him. He ate something, drank from a straw, soda pop bottle. It was collected and sent to the National FBI lab have DNA conducted. Once again, why was there a halt on the house to be cleaned? How did he find out where the girls lived? Because let's say he found them on social media. How was he able to then find the location of the house? Could it be that the girls posted where they work, also posted the house, pictures of the house? This way, I know where you live. Moscow's a small town. How hard would it be to find out the location? It wouldn't be. Because, Queen is good at putting stuff together. I've been in many situations where I've listened to people talk, and I knew who they were talking about without them even dropping their name. Now, some of you are going to say, what? Come on now, Queen. Let me give you a for instance. Because I know many of you are going to be like, oh, my God, this girl is crazy. sitting at a bar many years ago, 2003 to be exact. A lady is talking about a man she's dating, and she describes his nationality. And Queen knows exactly who she's talking about due to the fact of his nationality. I don't have to say what it is. I'll let you use your own imagination. She's talking about this man, talking about her relationship with him, what he's been doing for her, what he bought her. Little does she know, I've talked to this man. Dealt with him. And the whole time I just let her talk. I was letting her enlighten herself because she seems like she was enjoying her own conversation. The gist of the story is you can spin a web about people in a setting and don't even know that you're talking to people that know who you're speaking of. This is why they also tell you to be careful who you gossip about and talk about, because you may be talking to their brother, their sister, their mother, their child, family member, friend, somebody that's dated them. Now, I don't think I told her that, oh, yeah, I know him. Yeah, I think I did tell, because he ended up calling me. So I did tell her I knew who she was talking about, now that I recollect. And he called me and he said, I don't appreciate you talking about me to this lady. And I said, well, first of all, this lady didn't know me from a can of paint, and she's sitting up in a bar talking about you like you're, king of the world, and you ain't. So I enlightened her that you ain't shit. So what? Yeah, I said that. I sure did. I let her know he ain't hitting on shit. He's a bum. He's a bum. He's a womanizer. So good luck with that. So like I told him, if you're so worried about somebody talking bad about you, maybe you should represent yourself a little bit better out here in the field. And you're out here picking up women one by one. So obviously you don't care about yourself and you don't care about other people's feelings. You're just picking up random women and dating and lying to them like you're single when you're not. So hell yeah, I told her that you weren't hitting on nothing. I don't give a damn if she went back and told you. I just hope she spelled my name right. But the point I'm making is people talk. And you'd be surprised what people tell other people. And this is how people can find you. People can learn things about you because people like to run their mouth. How hard do you think it would be for him to find these kids and locate them? He only lived 15 minutes away. That's nowhere. Watch your social media accounts. Try to message you, blah, blah, blah. Who's to say he didn't try to message him? The girls blocked him. Is that the connection, the nexus everybody's talking about? Then he decided, oh, hell no, you don't block me. So now he travels to Mount Scout to find them. Oh, I'll get her. I'll get them. They think they're hot shit, blah, blah, blah. Nobody blocks me. Nobody ignores me. I was just trying to be nice. Why are all these women mean to me? What have I done to them? I'm just a regular old guy trying to get a date. But you see, your delivery is everything. And we hear that he doesn't know how to talk to people. He's very arrogant. He overtalked his professor. We got that information. So perhaps Bryan is a narcissist, self-serving. He feels like his shit don't stink, as my mama used to say when I was a little girl. Is that Mr. Kohberger? He feels like he's bigger than life because he wasn't bigger than life as a child in high school. So he's trying to overcompensate for the person he's always wanted to be, which is somebody important. Did he watch the house, their job, the bar? Did he fraternize with any of their friends, ask them any personal questions through social media, or came in contact with any of them to befriend them? What's in the apartment? What did they take out of the apartment? They didn't find a weapon. Where did he dispose of the weapon? Cohorts, anybody that has knowledge of the killings, anybody that helped, participated. What do the families know? His family members. We've heard Tuan speak, very bland and frank about criminal activity, gambling. Father estranged from other family members. And we do know that sometimes people can have personal problems with their family. It does not mean that because a person isn't speaking to a family member that they are a bad person. But one will wonder if the father is a problem person. And it has also been stated by the aunts that the father is difficult. Bryan's father is difficult. So is this where perhaps he gets his no-nonsense attitude and his exuberance to overtalk people? Got it from his daddy. What do they all know? Has he confessed to killing these kids to the mom, dad, brothers, sisters? How many kids are in the family? Why did he apply to Washington State program? Is it the best psychology program, the graduate program? Was he fixated on any of these kids before leaving Pennsylvania? It is said that he's talkative, friendly. Yet, Bryan Enton says he had a blank stare in the jail. So, what's wrong, Bryan? Are you upset because you realize your ass ain't coming out of that? And you realize, oops, I done messed up. I done left something at the crime scene. Yes, you did. Your DNA. And you probably was seen on somebody's doorbell camera coming and going. Now, Bryan, you would probably be real pissed off. You find out that house that sits to the left has a doorbell camera. But see, this is what happens when you think you're smarter than everybody. You're actually stupid because you're always going to forget something. Well, Brittany, my understanding, the people in the town didn't even know about the White Elantra in that small town where he lives. So, talkative, friendly. We hear this from neighbors, associates known to you from school, but yet you had a blank stare in the jail. So, is this a ruse to try to play crazy now? Are you going to come on back to Idaho? Or are you just a narcissist and arrogant and trying to come up with your next plan because you know they've got DNA linking you to these kids and God knows what other evidence against you? Why return to a death penalty state? Will this crime be considered federal, crossing state lines to murder a person intentionally? Those are the charges by Idaho State Attorney's Office. What do the neighbors and family think, feel, knowing their son is being charged with murder? Has he committed other crimes? Was this planned? When did he plan it? How long has he thought of murdering people? Would he have continued to commit other crimes had the Elantra bulletin not gotten out? I think so. Even though that information I brought you by the FBI says that people lay low, have a cooling off period, but nah, if this is his first offense, he was going to do just that. Sit down, be still, and when he thought it was clear, he'd go right back out, climbing into somebody's window, door. And that's another question. Now that we have a face to the suspect, you now have to ask yourself, how did he get in the house? Because they said there was no break-in. So, Bryan, how did you get in the house? Did you climb through a window on the second level? Or did you climb them long arms and legs up to the third floor and pulled yourself over the rail and pulled the glass slider back on the third level? Which is it? Second slider, third floor slider, or the window, one of the windows on the second level? Because there was a screen lying on the ground in a photo still. So I'd like to know who took that screen off. And if we're to believe that you're the guy that's pretending to be a relative in that video of a person filming themselves in front of a computer screen, one thing I thought was interesting in that commentary is that one of the girls wasn't asleep. And I've mentioned that in my commentary. What if one of the girls was not asleep when they were confronted by the killer? Imagine that. The fact that you said the people on the second floor were killed first, this alleged relative that don't know nothing. One would wonder, was this you, Bryan? One girl says she don't know if it's really you. Her brother said it don't sound like you. One of your classmates. Very interesting. I do believe if there was no mentioning of the car, no video footage of the white Elantra, Bryan would have continued killing people. That's a feeling I have. That's my personal opinion. Once again, when did the law find out about the video and the car, deem him a suspect, and why did they follow him all the way across the country? That seems very extreme to me. How did he didn't know he was being followed? This is because he's a dumb criminal. Suicide watch, they say. Why is that? Or are they just taking precautions because they want you bad? And they want to make sure you get to Idaho in one piece. One piece. So don't hang yourself in there, sweetheart. We need you alive. Because you need to stand account for killing these 4 kids. Students at your college and apartment complex, rather, said they left their doors unlocked. Imagine that. Imagine knowing you left your door unlocked in an apartment complex where the killer was your neighbor. Now, they've talked to the guy across the hall from you who said you were friendly. You never caused him any problems or any problems in the building, 3-flat building. Imagine knowing you've been living in the apartment complex with a murderer. Wow. How you doing, Bryan? I'm good. What you do this weekend? Oh, I chopped up 4 kids. Okay, see you later. See, you don't know anything about people coming and going out of doorways. That's what's so baffling. Is hearing of the killings, trying to find the killer, listening at all the gossip and the he said and the wild stories, apprehending the killer, seeing the face of the killer, trying to figure out who the killer is and what he's about, and then hearing the he said and the she said from the people that lived around him. That's the baffling. It's when you see who he is and the people that come forward spinning the webs, that they talked to him, they laughed with him, they ran, hiked, whatever, and all along they didn't know they were, as we call it, sleeping with the devil. Now imagine the sweetie pie that's going to tell us that dated him or had sex with him. Imagine that. So who has dated Bryan Kohberger? Has he ever dated a woman? Let's ask that. Has he even had sexual relations with a female? Is he angry, incel, bitter, that he's been mistreated, bullied, nobody likes him? I'm going to get revenge. I know how the psyche works. I know how to get away. I've talked to killers. Interesting. Okay. Why Moscow, Idaho? What's this plan to move to the Pacific Northwest put in motion before he left Pennsylvania? Did he know of the statistics of serial killers coming out of this side of the country and decided, I'm going to go be a part of that number? Had he done his research? Because you see, the Queen has brought you information that California has the most serial killer victims. So did he say to himself, yeah, they got a lot of working serial killers that come out of California, Pacific Northwest. I'm going to go ahead and join them. I'm studying psychology. I want to go ahead and apply to this school. Or did he see these kids' profiles a year or 2 before and decided he wanted to be close to them? I got to get over there. I got to get near them. I got to be by them. They're still students. I got to get close to these females. Just wondering. Say what? See, I find it confusing how the dad answered door for police, but yet SWAT came in. I don't know. I heard that the glass was broke out. So there's no need of you opening the door once they break the glass out. They can just stick their hand through and open the doors. I don't know, sweetie. Once again, what's the plan all along? To go to the Pacific Northwest, this Washington state, to kill. Had he known these kids by watching them on social media, interacted, ever got blocked, derogatory comments? How long has he seen these kids on social media if this is true? Don't care to get caught. I brought you commentary by the FBI.gov that They do care about getting caught. So did he care? Did he hope he wouldn't get caught? I think a person wouldn't want to get caught, especially if you're a first-time offender. Now, Jeffrey Dahmer said he was tired. He knew that it was coming, that he would be apprehended. Because that's one thing about serial killing, is that eventually you will become sloppy. And Dahmer had killed enough, in my book. Hell, you get to 10 victims, you ought to be tired at some point. And Dahmer could have been caught many times. That's been said. They've got commentary pertaining to that because he had too many chances of where he could. The law enforcement pulled him over once. He had bags of body parts in the back seat because he was driving erratically. He got a pass then. The young boy that was running outside the apartment naked, and the police took him back and gave him back to the boy. See, too many chances. People complaining about the odor in the building. The landlord didn't do a damn thing. The manager didn't do anything. See, there's always those little stories where you hear the suspect came close to apprehension and poof, voila, nothing. Law enforcement just decided in this instant to look away. Is this Bryan's 10 minutes of fame? But then one could say, well, he got caught. So does he have any remorse for killing these kids? What was the motive for killing these kids? So he can write a good paper? Let me see what it's like. I can't really understand. I'm not a killer. Talking to them on the phone and reading about them is not the same. I need to experience the murder. What it's like to hunt them, pick them out, find them, lie in wait, watch, then execution. Was this just for his school paperwork? Nowhere is safe. Nowhere is safe. Mental disorder, schizophrenia, antisocial behavior. Is he a sociopath, psychopath? Who is Bryan Kohberger? Once again, I brought you information from the FBI.gov that most serial killers are driven by anger. I brought you commentary pertaining to active serial killers. Which state has the most, which is California? What is the motive for these killings? And naturally, most don't want to die. So he killed these kids in a death penalty state. And he had to have known that because he's a smart kid, allegedly. So he should have done his homework. So why would you kill in a death penalty state? Bryan Kohberger. That wasn't very smart, but you're not smart because that's been your problem. You've been mistreated in life, and I get it. That's usually the personality that people gain who have been mistreated in life, childhood. They were ignored, pushed to the side. They eventually become dominant in their personality, possibly later in life. They become talkative. They start speaking up for themselves, and God forbid, they enter a life of crime. And I believe Mr. Kohberger fits this profile. He was tired of being ignored. He was tired of being the guy beat up or pushed on or things thrown at him. He found his voice. He became arrogant. He overtalked, blah, blah, blah. But besides becoming overt in his commentary, he also became a killer. So one would have to ask, is the bullying that took place as a young boy the lead off, the jump off to the killing of the girls? He's an incel. He hates girls, don't like women, or he's just upset because he never could get a girl or get the kind of girl he wanted. These pretty blondes, made up, painted up. He ain't their type. But then who is anybody's type? Because one could look at the guy that dated Kaylee and say, is he really her type? I don't know because I don't know her. And a lot of people are with people who a lot of us would look at and say, he don't look like the kind of guy that she would choose or vice versa. But they chose him anyway. Because you really don't know people. Sometimes you date people that really aren't the best looking, most attractive. Maybe they said something nice to you that day and one thing led to another. What was the motive for killing these kids? Did he think he covered his tracks? Sure, he realized that when the bolo went out on the white Elantra. Ding, ding, ding. Did he realize he left something behind, such as DNA? Did he take any trophies? Was there going to be another kill after the girls? As Mr. Gonsalves said, he spoke to one of the neighbors or one of the young people, and they said, I would feel worse if this was random. But in the end, murder is murder. Because it still shows you don't know people. Whether somebody killed the ex-boyfriend, girlfriend, new boyfriend, old boyfriend, we're currently dating, we got in a fight, or I caught you cheating, death is death. Still shows you don't know people no matter the motive. But I understand the point. People would be more fearful some wacko just running around hacking up kids. I totally get it. I totally get that. Was this planned by Bryan Kohberger? Or was it random? He just went out one day, was driving around the town, decided to see what was going on in Moscow, check out the university, buy a lunch or dinner, and maybe he saw one of the kids walking around or went and ate at one of the restaurants they worked in. Who's to say? Targeted. He thought this crime out. He picked the target, which is the girls or the house, and he executed the plan. This is what some of his associates have said about his personality. Mature, awkward, nice, professional. Former mates say he was bullied because of his weight, and he was socially awkward growing up in high school. Girls threw things at him. There was a point when he was asking his questions for that questionnaire during his master's at DeSales University that somebody said that he was walking around the library asking a lot of questions to people in the library for the survey, which they thought was strange. But then I thought, what was strange about it? But then one could say, well, it's strange because they're not killers. So what exactly was he asking the students in the library? Because I would assume none of those kids had murdered anybody. So what questions was he asking the student body in the library while he was attaining his master's from DeSales University? The fact that he looks anemic, sweetheart, is because he's probably sick. He's possibly been still using narcotics, possibly not eating properly. You can see the bags under his eyes, as one guy has spoken out. It's a lot of work. Doing master's and graduate program, you get tired, you get less sleep. But then we also know that Ted Bundy was tired too from killing people, hunting them all damn day and disposing of their bodies, carrying their bodies from one state to the other. That would become exhausting. So one would ask, is he tired? Was he tired from schoolwork, out hunting and looking for people? Active drug user? Why was he coming to class late and tired? The link is in the chat if you want to join the queen to chop up who is Bryan Kohberger, and did he kill these kids because he was teased? You want a vindication. Tired of flirting with you girls out here and you won't even look at him. He's not even worthy of a date. F all you women. I'm somebody. I'm important. Why you don't want to talk to me? What have I done to you? Is that his attitude? Tired of being the guy on the outside looking in. And I must say that there comes a time as a human being that will become old. Always looking through the glass, wanting inside. But you can't get in because you feel like nobody will let you in. But this is what I always tell people about looking through the glass. You know, that's the myth that the glass is sometimes full, sometimes half full, sometimes half empty. Depends on your perception of what is in the glass. See, what I see in the glass, you don't see. And that's probably what was the problem with Mr. Bryan. He was an overthinker, obsessive thinker, and he took things too literal when all he had to do was just be himself. but then maybe he didn't know who his self was. And I think many of us have possibly gone through that. We're possibly the same way as older people, still wondering who the hell we are as people. What's our goal in life? Where are we going in life? Have we attained everything we should in life? And see, that's going to be a problem for you as far as how you deal with people, your perception, especially if you're still trying to attain things that you feel like you deserve. And I think that's possibly what was going on with Mr. Kohberger. He felt like I deserve more. I'm not getting what I should be getting back. I'm this smart guy, but nobody's looking at me. Nobody's talking to me. Not a bad looking guy. Why aren't these girls looking at me? Why won't they date me? Here he got upset in that last brewery back home, flirting with the women, talking to him, asking them questions. So what was he saying exactly? Hey, what's your name? Where do you live? Well, I think that would make somebody offensive. And I've heard men ask that. I didn't think of them as serial killers, but it is intrusive to ask a person, where do you live? Why? But you know what? It's a Southern thing too. Because as I told you all here, we talk a lot here in the South. People here in the South ask a lot of fucking nosy ass questions. Want to know everything about you. Where are you from? Where you live? How'd you come here? Who's your mama? Who's your daddy? You got family here? How long you been here? You got kids? You got grandkids? How old are they? What schools do they go to? I mean, I'm telling you, here in the South, they'll wear you out with the fucking questions. And this is why I tell you why you have to be careful what you tell people, because this is something I've learned personally. And anything I attest to up here on this live stream, I speak from experience. Rarely is it an assumption. I speak from experience. You tell the wrong damn thing and you'll regret it. You'll regret it. Because let me tell you about some people. They are gathering information for a reason. It ain't to be friendly. It's to later come back and tell you, well, I thought you said this, and I thought you said that you only work 20 hours a week, and you just bought a new flat screen, or you just bought a Mercedes Benz, or so what? So what? So what? You have to be very careful what you tell people, because it will come back and bite you in the ass. You may not even think anything about it. Running your mouth at work, people asking you what your salary is, everybody knows that's a no-no. Do you think it's smart to tell your other employees what you make versus what they make? So then they can go run to the boss and say, well, I was here longer and she makes blah, blah, blah. Now you've got an enemy. Stay woke. Whenever somebody questions you about something, oh, I thought you said you did this on this day. Oh, I thought you said you worked on this. And oh, I thought you worked here. See, that's somebody to me trying to get information, because that means they're now remembering what I last said. So now you're coming back telling me, oh, well, I thought you said, what do you care? Especially if I'm new to you and this is our first time getting to know each other. Why are you worrying about what I got going on? So long as I'm not asking you for no damn money, who cares? But the point I'm trying to make to you all is that you have to be careful the information you give to people, because people are out here, they are gatherers, and they're not gathering it to be friendly. They could gather it to use it against you or to do nefarious things to you. This is why you have to be careful by telling people things such as, we now know this guy has killed 4 people. Maybe he was asking those girls in the bar back in Pennsylvania where they live because he wanted to go harm them. Exactly, Tracy, in relationships as well. It's true. And that's a sad thing to say. But a lot of people will tell you that, oh, I wish I'd have never told him or her that. Because they brought it up. They're always talking about what I said. And to you, it's minute. But to them, it's not. And we don't look at people as killers and rapists and sadists. So we ain't thinking about telling them nothing. But you do need to be careful. And what you reveal to people, what you talk about at work, in public, what you say out loud in public, of your location, your phone number. I'll give you, for instance, I did a lot of running around yesterday before going out for New Year's Eve. And I was in a certain store. I almost mentioned the store, but some said, no, don't tell that store. I was in a certain store, and the person working behind the register said to me, oh, I haven't seen you in here in a while. And I thought, well, wait a minute. Okay. He's telling the truth. I hadn't been in that store in a while because I've been buying items at other stores, obviously. But it's the point that he recognized me and he knew he had not seen me in the store. Bingo card. And he now has my phone number because I had to put it in for the discount card. Stay woke, everybody. See, this is why I tell you why you have to pay attention. Because see, some of you will just be rattling on at the mouth, not thinking nothing about somebody asking you that question. And I'm not saying this person is in no way a harmful individual, but he now remembers me. He knows he has not seen me in the store, and he now has my phone number. And if he's a wacko sicko, he's memorized the phone number. Stay woke. The point I'm trying to make is that there's so many ways that people could try to find you or get access to you. And we have so many ways of gathering public information because this is one way. You're using that discount card for the store, and I wanted to make sure he had the accurate number because he's asking for the phone number and it's coming up under my old number. So I give the new number, but my better half was saying, you need to just pretend that you got the old damn number in there. Because what if he's some crazy person and decides he wants to start playing funny games on the phone? See, you don't know people. And it's not to say anything bad about this person. I'm just giving you a for instance of how information is shared. That you don't know people. People talk. You'd be surprised what people talk about in apartment complexes. Tell all your business, what they heard about you, what they know about you, your income, this and that. And before you know it, people know things about you that you never even repeated to 5, 6 different people. But all it took is your manager told stuff about you to the neighbors. Now everybody knows what you make. Last time you were late on your rent. Oh, you think your landlord don't talk about you? You better wake up. Queen could share some real nice stories with you about how landlords like to talk about their tenants and tell all their damn personal financial business. You wouldn't be very happy. That's why I tell you, you trust no one. Make up lies. This is the kind of world we're in. People are deviant. But back to the point, I don't know for sure how he found these kids. Mr. Gonsalves has spoken that he has information but won't reveal it, which is like, okay, here we go. We're back to this. Well, they've arrested the cat now. Just go ahead and say what you think, how you think he's contacted the kids. Did he contact the kids? Did he reach out to any of them on social media? They rebuffed him, blocked him, set him off. I'll show them. What are we saying here? Almost 2 hours in and no takers to give their opinions. Now, you guys, we've talked about this hitting the link business. Now, it'd be a shame to look up one day. There's no StreamYard for you all to hit. So this is why you should utilize the services. Because they're being paid for by the Queen. And I'm sure there are people who would like to hear other people's opinions pertaining to the subject at hand. Well, I'll go on to my next audio. Thank you for joining me. Thank you, Brittany, for being so kind to the Queen last week. God bless all of you. Let's see who's been so nice to send the queen something. Is that Kim? Thank you, Kim. Katie, why don't you call in? How about that? Let's see the hottest gossip going on with this crazy case. Because this case is about crazy. Idaho killing arrest. Suspect finished semester. Washington State, says police.
After nearly 7 weeks of uncertainty, residents of Moscow, Idaho now feeling at ease.
I think it was pretty unnerving and scary for people.
The college community relieved after an arrest in the deadly stabbings of 4 University of Idaho students, a crime that seemed to mystify police.
Now we're sharing the energy.
Salmon patties.
That this huge moment has happened. It's not going to go unsolved.
Moscow police say they are confident that 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger is the killer. Authorities zeroed in on the criminology student and arrested him Thursday, more than 2,500 miles away at his parents' home in Pennsylvania.
I looked at the picture and I couldn't believe who it was. It was Bryan Kohberger. I would text him like, hey, you want to go for a run?
Police have not found the murder weapon, but did recover the white Hyundai Elantra they say Kohberger used to drive cross-country from Washington State University, where he lived and attended school. The university is less than 20 minutes from Moscow. Friday, investigators searched his apartment.
We are still looking for all pieces of evidence.
Even with the arrest, authorities say the investigation is far from over. They're still asking for tips about the suspect from anyone who knows him.
School officials say Kohberger continued going to classes and finished the semester at Washington State University before driving home to Pennsylvania. His attorney tells us he was calm but shocked by his arrest. Danya Vakis, CBS News, Moscow, Idaho.
All right, that's some very interesting information there. So that's something I was curious about. He finished his courses, everybody. Please think about what's being said. Bryan finished his courses, was also assistant to a professor, had his own office there on campus. I think they finished around the 13th of December. I could stand corrected. That means he continued on with his coursework after killing these kids. And I have to go back in my database to pull up the date that they released the information about the car. The white Elantra. Let me try to go back in and pull up the date that they had pull up the car. What is this? Let's see. Because that's going to be very interesting versus when he left. I got somebody up here. Hold on. Hello?
Hello.
Hey, Ann, where you calling from?
Kentucky.
All right. What do you have to say about all the information? Have you been listening for the entire live or you just came in?
No, I've been here for a little bit.
Okay, I'm trying to find the date when it gave us the information about the Elantra. I'm trying to go back. Let's see. Dang. December 15th. Hold on, let me see the Daily Mail. They might have it. Hold on one second, sweet. I'll let you speak here in just a minute.
That's fine,
Let's
sweet.
see. Database. Okay, so at 3:45 a.m., that car goes by on the 13th of November. That's the same morning the kids were killed. On December 7th, police announced the critical news that they were looking to speak with the occupant or occupants of a white 2011-13 Hyundai Elantra and said that it was in the immediate area of the victim's home on November 13th when the slayings occurred. So this tells me that once they heard of that, got the video from, I guess, the gas station attendant or whomever they got evidence, information from. I think the classes stopped on the 13th. If I'm not mistaken, I'll stand corrected during this live stream. That means he still went on a week or so until he finished his coursework and the school ended. Okay?
Right.
Elantra is a 2015 make, for those who are curious. That's very interesting. Go ahead. Tell me what you think about everything I've said, and especially about the stuff I brought to you pertaining from the FBI on myths of serial killing, antisocial personalities. He was bullied as a kid. I'm going to bring you commentary pertaining to that. Go ahead. Tell me what you think, Ann.
I do agree with the that commentary you brought from the well, I don't guess I do agree. I do believe he's antisocial personality disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Tell me why. Tell me why. Tell me why.
Just that's why I don't understand why. And it would take a certain person like that to go in and not even have any remorse, any empathy to take a human life like that.
Yeah. Well, tell me this. You think he's antisocial. What? I gotta work this. How do you think he found the kids?
I believe through social media, or with it being a small town, like you said before, possibly a restaurant.
Because that's something people need to understand, that, and I'm sure most of you know this that live in your jurisdiction. 15 minutes is nothing, because I know of people, like I said, in the general area where I live, we've got like 5 counties that surround each other, 5, 6 counties, and most of us have met each other, intertwined with each other, friends of friends on social media platforms. We've partied with people, gone to functions with people, so we know of them. Even if we're not best friends, but we have met them. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
We've seen them out. Like right now, I could go to the mall somewhere, and I may see somebody I've met at a function, party, church. See where I'm going? Because the area, people live in the area, and they go from county to county, visiting people, have friends, family, and 15 minutes is nothing. So he could have easily just went to Moscow just to have lunch at a place, or the picture show, or if they got an area mall, because I do believe they have an area mall, he could have went to the mall. See, you don't know. They're going to have to tell us verbatim. This is what's in his computer, cell phone, all his searches, Google searches, social media platforms, his commentary. If he tried messaging them, because naturally they can pull all that up. Even if the girls block them, they can pull all that up. Go ahead, honey.
I've heard that his sister's a therapist.
Really? Interesting. I have not heard that. Well, where does she live?
I want to say New Jersey, but don't.
Oh, Don says he should have had his degrees taken away. Well, Don, I think we got more important things to worry about his degrees being taken away. I think that may come down the road if the school decides they want to retract his degrees. I got 115 viewing. Hit the link, you guys. This is an important conversation.
And when I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
When he put out that research, well, it's not a research, but
survey. That was years ago. But that was a while ago. That wasn't recent.
Right, but the questions on it, see, that has to be approved by a board.
And yes, that was. And I'm very glad you said that. So everything he asked in the questionnaire was approved by the university. Let's make that clear. Yes, thanks for mentioning that.
Which he could hide under, because the courses he was taking.
Well, that's what he's studying. He's studying the criminal mind. So it's normal for him to ask, how would you feel? How did you feel? What did you do before? What led you to want to kill? What did you do afterwards? Those are normal questions.
Yeah, and just like when he got his degree, that flat effect, no, nothing there. No, that stare, that cold, dark, his eyes. I mean, it's just no emotion.
Well, you hear that girl?
Flat effect.
Evil Exists channel, and he was playing commentary from that the friend that's come out to speak, the female, and she showed the picture of them all standing close together, and he looked like it depends on your view, because you got to remember, if you didn't know him, you might have just looked at the picture and said, oh, he didn't smile. You've seen people that don't smile.
Oh yeah,
but you didn't think no more of it until after the fact, when you heard something terrible about them.
Or it could be he could have really kept that mask on and people just didn't see it. I mean,
yeah, because that's just one picture of Bryan not smiling. You have people saying at the apartment complex, he did talk. He did speak. He was friendly. So that's not your typical so awkward recluse type person. I think he spoke. I think he talked when he wanted. He exerted himself when he felt like it. But deep down inside, there was still something wrong, because even if, let's say, he killed the kids just to get the experience for the thesis or paperwork, it's still diabolical, because you snuffed out 4 people. Rather, you only meant to kill 1, kill 2. And now you got to ask yourself, now we know who the killer is. What in the hell are the 2 living survivors thinking?
Oh, I know, that would just send chills up on you.
Yeah, because they've got to be feeling quite messed up right now.
Oh, yes.
To see the picture of the killer, wait to see the evidence as far as how he came to know the victims. And if indeed, I've heard a few people say in the chats, oh, he was tired, that's why he didn't kill the 2. Well, I don't know, because I don't know Bryan to say he was tired. But if you listen to that video, if you believe that's him talking into that computer, where he's saying, I'm the person is saying, I'm a relative, I got this secondhand information. Oh, the killer may have took off because he heard a scream. How would you even, I wouldn't even repeat that, because that's somebody else's opinion. If that's even true, it was said. You see where I'm going?
Right, right.
Oh, I think he left because he heard somebody scream. Like some people have said, you don't know if anybody screamed or not. Because if he cut their throat, how are you going to scream when somebody cut your throat?
And if that was him and him talking about the girls' bodies were stacked on top of each other.
Yeah, that was scary. That was scary. I'm so glad you mentioned that. That right there, when I listen, let me tell you something. I didn't listen to all of that a week or so ago. First thing I thought was, oh, here's another nut pretending to be related to somebody. I didn't even think of it being the killer. I just thought just some wacko, you know what I'm saying, wanting attention. So I ignored it until listening to it today. Let's go ahead and play some of that. I'm glad you mentioned that. We're gonna play some. Okay. Hold on a second. We'll pull that up. Let's because that's some very interesting information, if we're to believe that is him. I gotta find this. It's the right video. Okay, that's the TikTok. Let's see.
And law enforcement, I don't care how close you are, wouldn't have let something out at the crime scene like that. I would say they don't even tell their wife.
And people do, but people do repeat stuff, because you know things have been repeated to the queen. So people do tell stuff, just like the one lady telling stuff about she worked with one of the cops or whatever. People do talk.
Okay.
You know, people do tell stuff. Because I remember when those kids got killed here at Knoxville, and I remember the property manager at the time had said, I can't tell you about what I've heard, but just trust me, it would frighten you to know how the kids were kidnapped and murdered. I remember her telling me that. So I knew somebody had told her something, and I figured it was the police that told her, because the police were always going in the rental office, you know, because there was always stuff going on at the time where I lived. So they were always being there talking to the property manager. So I assumed they had told her how the kids came to be, you know, kidnapped and ended up at that location, at that house where they were murdered. So hold on a minute. I'm trying to see if I can find this girl. Okay, here we go. Let's go here.
Videos and concert videos of Harry Styles. And then one random video popped up on 14th December that included a male voice and a reflection of a man on a laptop screen. The man claims to be family of someone inside the investigation, but the details shared are so chilling. Could this really be Bryan Kohberger? Take a listen.
Hey there, to those of you interested in hearing this report, I just want to let you know that I'm a relative of someone inside the investigation into the quadruple homicide in Idaho. I don't want to be any more specific than that, because I don't want to put anybody in a challenging or contentious situation regarding their continued employment. And I will say what I'm about to tell you is secondhand, but it is from what I believe to be a very reliable source. Again, this can only be considered a rumor, as I don't have firsthand knowledge. I never planned on posting any of this information out of respect for the victims' families. However, now that one of the victims' fathers has released some of the gruesome details himself, I'd like to share some of the investigative theory. As you know, the two women were found in the same bed, but with similar wounds. That's what's been reported. That's not exactly 100% true, at least in regard to the fact that they hadn't fallen asleep in the same bed.
Right there. Let's just say this is him. How would you know, even if it's a person speaking secondhand, they would not know that. The police would have had to told them something, which I don't believe the police told them, the parents and those people, nothing. Considering all the bullshit that's going on with them and the consolvences and all this he said, she said stuff.
Right.
I don't believe the police would have told them anything, because you're going to have to show that you knew one hadn't fallen asleep with the other one. So it's almost as if he's saying what? Or somebody is saying they weren't even in the same room, the girls. Let me play that again. But that's a strange hypothesis. Hold on one second. Hold on. 219.
Women were found in the same bed, but with similar wounds. That's what's being reported. That's not exactly 100% true, at least in regard to the fact that they hadn't fallen asleep in the same bed.
Wounds not the same, wounds not similar, and not falling asleep in the same bed. So who is he speaking of? Because Xana had a man with her, and we're believing that he was outside of the room and Xana died in the room, but not in the bed. And then he's going to go on to say how one of them allegedly ran. He grabbed her, threw her on top of the other one, and that's how she died. Man, that's even a hellified thing to even repeat. Even if it was somebody related to the family and it was told to them, that's how they think it happened.
Yeah. He's letting it out right there. It's almost like he...
But do you believe it's him? Let's go there. Do you believe this is him on this audio?
Yes, I do.
No, Brittany. The person speaking is saying they're related to somebody related to the victims. But you'll hear the friend of his from school say that at one point she's saying like she didn't think it was him talking. She wasn't for sure. She said the brother, one point she said she did. I have to play her audio to be, because I don't want to misquote. But her brother is saying he don't think it's him. He can't be for certain just from a little short clip. And you could tell he's trying not to really just be boisterous in his conversation. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
For people to not recognize his voice. But see, this is when you know a person is cocky. You're stupid enough to be sitting up here talking.
It might have infuriated his God complex when the father spoke, and Ellie might be using this as a way to like bait him. He wanted to set the, you know what I'm saying? Like he's feeding that narcissistic part of him that,
So
hey,
wait. Say that again about the Ellie.
I'm wondering if the Ellie let the father speak on.
Well, I don't know if that's true, baby, because remember that's what they had odds about. Remember he got loud and said, "I paid for that. I paid for that. That's my right to tell it." I don't think they wanted that known.
And then that might have infuriated Bryan to the point if he does have this God complex, narcissistic type of.
Well, you gotta have a God complex because you took 4 lives. Right. You don't know these kids. This wasn't self-defense. Nobody was coming at you for you to kill all those kids. They're all on different floors. So you can't even say they were bothering me. They were attacking me. They invited me over and everybody turned on me. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
It's a God complex either way. You know, a narcissistic attitude, no matter the motive. Because see, that's like you're trying to tell everybody. don't focus on the motive because that's how you get yourself hung up. He knew what he was doing. As I brought you commentary from the FBI, in the end, no matter how they were raised, how they were treated, they are free-thinking individuals. And he didn't have to kill those kids. That was his choice for whatever reason. And naturally, he's denying killing them, which shows you, yeah, God complex galore. Because he should know he left something behind. Because right now, you know, many people are wondering, did he cut himself?
Yep.
And I'm sure they've checked him out. And I won't doubt that he's cut himself. Let's finish what he's saying and we'll chop up everything.
Okay.
One of the victim's wounds were deep gouges that were delivered with extremely aggressive force, so much so that the victim's liver and lungs were destroyed. Here's the theory that's happening. They definitely think it was a man because of the force of the wounds. The person must have been strong, very strong.
He's very strong.
Into the room after doing what they did on the second floor. They went upstairs. The person cleanly and quietly.
First
victim.
That's strange wording.
Uh-huh.
Even if I'm assuming that, let's just say this is a second person, third person, speaking of this to somebody and they repeat it to 12 different people. How would I know that somebody cleanly killed? What does cleanly actually mean?
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, what does cleanly and quietly? What part? Brittany, hit the link.
Like he was walking through there like he was stealth and there was no way. It's like he's...
Well, it would be quiet, but it's going to be quiet if people are sleeping, allegedly, or at least just in their room with their door closed. They're not making a lot of noise. The kids didn't have no party. And I do find that interesting, too. This is the night these kids aren't entertaining, but they probably had other functions going on that weekend because I thought they said there was some, I don't know if that was homecoming or had some other type of stuff going on. So that's why the girls went somewhere else that night. Ethan and Xana went to where they wanted to go. This is the night there was no party because even that crazy guy that wanted to put himself in the mix, that neighbor, it was awfully quiet that night. Yeah, because that's usually how the Reaper works. He chose the night when it wasn't no party. Think about this. What psycho comes in a room full of people? This isn't like Friday the 13th. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, Jason says, I don't give a damn about all y'all in the house. I'm going to kill all of you.
Yeah.
That is interesting. The one night they don't have a function, this is when the killer strikes. Brittany, what is it that you want me to replay? I don't know how far back you want me to go because it's 6 minutes long. Hold on, let me see. Let me go back a little bit.
They definitely think it was a man because of the force of the wounds. The person must have been strong, very strong. They think the man came.
Can you hear that well?
Into the room after doing what they did on the second floor. They went upstairs.
Can you hear that good, Ann?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, because I didn't know if I need to put it on the bigger speaker, so that's why I was asking. Okay.
The person cleanly and quietly unalived the first victim. The second victim awoke and tried to run. The man, they believe that the man possibly grabbed her, and she screamed loudly, apparently. The man then harmed her, and the reason the wounds were of such force, he was delivering it quickly and forcibly to quiet her, which I apologize for how I know it's disturbing, but anyway, how do we know that she screamed? Because 3 individuals reported hearing a scream between 3:45 and 4 o'clock. That's why the police have such a specific time frame as to when the murders occurred. Because I don't know if you know.
When you look at the reflection through the computer screen, I don't know. It kind of looks like him, that square box head, that long face.
And the ears and the nose.
Yeah, the nose. That's what stuck out to me. Exactly. The nose stuck out to me first, and the elongated face.
Yeah, the ears.
I'm going to tell you how they're going to know if it's him. They're going to play this, which I'm sure they have, and they're going to go back to the apartment and look at the background. And if anything in that background, such as that picture hanging on the wall, because I saw a picture, if that looks like anything hanging in his apartment, they're going to know he's the one that uploaded this video. Do you know how creepy that is?
Yeah, it's
I knew he was going to be on social media because we live in a society where people just can't stay their ass off of Facebook and Twitter and this Reddit, whatever the hell Reddit is. I didn't even know about a Reddit.
I didn't either.
And so, and that's what's so interesting about these people. Don't you find it strange that all these little snippets of other places you can go talk and chat, these people find their fucking ways over to these other sites to talk.
It's scary as hell.
It's very scary. It's very scary. Hello, Brittany. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody in the chat and my guests. Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Brittany. Brittany, what is it that you need me to double back to play, sweetheart?
And maybe I just maybe I misunderstood.
Just
where was this posted at?
I don't know.
Well, I felt like he was saying that he was related to.
He's saying
well,
to
Ellie, because he mentioned something about a job. Not anybody in trouble.
He says I'm related to somebody that's a relative of the victim. So
I'm sure he doesn't say investigation.
Listen, what we're asking is this Bryan or not? The girl who's friends with him, I think, says she thinks it is. It ain't. I'm going to play all that. But when you look at the reflection through the computer, because you know how your computer sits so still, it'll cut itself off, the picture on the screen. Let me say this, it favors his features. Let me say that. The long face, the square box haircut, looks like him.
So he's not showing his face. It's just like a reflection of the screen.
Yeah. It's a reflection of somebody at their computer, their laptop with the cell phone. And then once the screen goes black, you see the reflection of the person with their phone.
Yeah, that's odd.
Do you want me to go ahead and finish this so you can dissect it, ma'am?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, have you not heard it?
No, I have not.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, we'll let everybody finish hearing it. Okay. And thank you for the kind donations. I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
And thank you. Hope you had a good Christmas. Okay, this is 621. If you all need to verify this information, Evil Exists is the host of this commentary. Thank you for letting me share this because this to me is strange because Queen heard bits and pieces of it last week and I shucked it off because I said, oh God, here we go. We got us another, you know what I mean? You know how I am, like, oh, here's another he said, she said. So I just didn't even listen to it all the way because I just thought it was some whack job out there trying to make up stuff.
It's like he's wanting validation.
Well, that's the point. Like we've already heard this 1,000 times, is that there's no way you could have thought the killer was not going to go and look at stuff online, comment. He's got to. This is his glory. This is his glory moment.
He would definitely be all over.
Exactly. Because see, let me tell you what I thought he was going to do. I thought he would be the type to say derogatory things about the kids. But if this is him, let's just say this is him. He's acting concerned and, prayers for the family, the victims. This is more disturbing than the actual act itself, killing the kids. If this is him, let me say if. This could be just some random guy that's has no bearing on the case. Okay,
I'd like to know the day he posted that compared to when Kaylee's dad came out and mentioned.
The 14th.
Okay.
So then one of you needs to pull up when he spoke about the wounds. Well, whatever it is, he already knew about the wounds because he says that in here. The daddy already said that, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know if this is true or not. I'm just getting this from somebody else. This is how he's playing it. Like, this is their version of what they think happened. I'm just repeating it. That's how he's portraying himself. Okay, here we go.
Police have such a specific time frame as to when the murders occurred. Because I don't know if you noticed, but the authorities weren't called the next day until late in the morning, yet they had a very specific time frame when the murder happened. They think the scream is why. And after reviewing video files from the neighborhood, they reviewed security cameras in the area, and they have an audio file where I haven't heard it, but I was told that you could clearly hear a loud scream from a female. That scream was recorded at exactly 3:38 a.m. Neighbors say they didn't call the police because they said there's often loud noise coming from the house. I was told that there are parties there all the time. Again, I don't know if that's true, but it's what I was told. The weapon used was a long serrated edged hunting knife with a fixed blade. The weapon had not been in the house. The person brought it with them and took it when they left. The two victims were on the same bed, not side by side. One victim was found on top of the other. The reason is that the one tried to escape and was grabbed, harmed, and then shoved and fell on top of her friend. That is why there's a lot of blood mixtures on this.
See, how would I, as a sane person, know who could have gotten up to run?
You wouldn't.
Now, I've said that about Xana and Ethan because they both were found in different places. Do you understand?
Right.
But the only person that would know how they looked in the bed would be one, the killer, and the people who went to process the crime scene and the district attorney and law officials. So let's say that one was stacked on top of the other one in the bed. You still wouldn't know that one got up, because if one jumped up to try to save herself, she hadn't been stabbed. That means there's not a trail. Stay woke now. Yeah. There's no trail that she first got stabbed in the bed with the first one. And you remember I said that earlier. If I wake up and see you stabbing someone next to me, what is my instinct to do? Do I, one, try to stop you from stabbing my friend, my lover, whoever, or do I run? I can't answer that, right? Because I'm not the person there. So let's say there's some truth to this allegation. One's being stabbed. Let's say that's the one being stabbed first is Maddie, okay? 2, Kaylee's looking up, whatever. Maybe she had on headphones, I don't know, and looks over like, oh no, I got to get out of here. Runs, he takes her, throws her on top. Or it could be either one. I'm not even about to say it because I don't want to be disrespectful.
Right.
That's just a strange thing to say, even as an outsider. Here, it's just strange to me. And I'm not saying that this could not actually have happened this way. I'm just saying, how would even, let's say, the father, mother, anybody know, unless there's a trail or there's some way that you could prove, unless there was a camera in the room. See where I'm going?
Right.
Just how can I repeat that to say, one got stabbed first, one jumped up, tried to run out, he grabbed that one, threw her on the bed, tried to silence her, and then she was screaming, so he stabbed her, and I guess he's trying to allude to that's why that one has more wounds, the one that's laying on top of the other one. This is crazy as hell. Brittany?
Yeah, it's crazy for sure. I'm kind of speechless. This is the first time I've heard that. Was he saying they didn't originally start out in the same room? Is that what he was saying?
What, Brittany?
The two girls, like they weren't in the bed together?
But see, that's what I don't understand. Because he's acting. See, that's when you know there's something wrong with this commentary. First, you say, this was repeated to me, number 1. 2, they think that one wasn't asleep in the bed, but then you say one ran from the bed. So which is it? So one was in the bed with the victim, or one was up, one was asleep. I think one was possibly up, and that would have been Caitlin, because she's the one talking on the phone up until 2:52, or attempting to call. We also know that Maddie could have been up or not up when she used her phone to call this Jack person. And that's normal for you to use somebody else's phone. You think somebody's ignoring you. So, you say, girl, let me use your phone. I've done it. So that to me was not suspicious. Her calling him at 2, 3 in the morning wasn't suspicious to me because she's dated the dude. And if she wants to call him, whether they're together or not, that's her business. That's her business. That's not nothing unusual. People calling people and they've broken up with somebody. And we also know that people drunk now. Many of us have done it. So I tell people, don't try to act like your ass brand new. Like, you know what I mean? Don't try to act like you ain't never drunk down somebody. Hey, what you doing? You up? What you doing? You want some company? Come on now, we all grown.
And I believe her sister stated that was pretty typical.
Well,
for
my
her
thing
to
is,
call back to back.
at some point they know each other. She's talking to her
Mhm.
sister about her dealings with him, and if she probably still had feelings or didn't have feelings. My thing is, you can't read into stuff unless you know the victim, and that's what I always try to make people understand about the behavior. It's easy to judge, but you don't know her. You don't know Maddie. You don't know Xana. You don't know Ethan. You talk about 4 different people with 4 different personalities. We don't know who they talked to, who they fell out with, who they could have pissed off. I mean, the list could be as long as my foot and my arm. And we now know that this boy was teased in high school. Girls threw things at him. Hell yeah, he's probably feeling a whole lot of bullshit towards women because he's looking at these pretty girls like, man, every time I go try to talk to one of them, they won't even talk to me. They won't even look at me. I've heard men say things like that, just nasty ass comments. Oh, that bitch. I mean, I've been called a bitch. I've had one nasty ass thing would say, you're just a bitch. Why? I'm a bitch because I don't want to talk to you in public.
Mhm.
I don't have to. I don't owe you anything to
That's
sit here and
right.
have a winded conversation with a belligerent drunk.
Yeah.
I mean, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're right.
But, oh, if I was talking to you, then I'd be what? Oh, you're such a great, fabulous person. And that's a sicko when they can go from 0 to 60. Oh, hi, how are you doing? And then you're like, hey. And the next minute they just keep saying stuff that you don't like. And then you let them know, like, hey, I'm not with that type of conversation. Now you're a bitch, motherfucking hoe, all that type of stuff.
Right.
You know, and you know how Queen is. And I tell myself that might be the death of me. One day I say something to somebody, let them know, hey, I ain't gonna be too many of them bitches. And then if somebody might pull out a knife or gun, shoot me. But that's the point. When you're dealing with people who are not stable. They're not stable. And one thing I learned in listening to this commentary from the FBI is true. Your coping mechanisms, that is what forms your identity as an adult. How you were treated as a child, the things you endured as a child, teenager, all those things form how you deal with people. You know what I'm saying? How you respond to people. You know,
Yeah, it makes me wonder about his relationship with his mom.
Yeah, you get crunk easily. Hey, I get it. Because if you've been taught crazy to all your life, you grow up and one day say, you know what? I ain't going to keep letting nobody just say any damn thing to me. I ain't going to let you just keep talking crazy to me. And a lot of people don't get that a lot of people who were shy and quiet, they change. They don't stay an introvert. They don't exactly cope. They change. They say, fuck this. Hey, these people have been running over me all my life. They've been talking down to me and throwing stuff at me and bullying me. I've now got a voice. I'm going to speak up. Who's to say he changed? And I'm not making excuses, but I'm trying to make you understand the mindset. It's that people who start out one way end up another way. And this may be Bryan. Bullied, found his voice, became angry when his voice still wasn't validated.
It's truly a mind-boggling case. It's craziness.
Well, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and finish it. Got 1 more minute.
On this at the scene, they're also desperately looking for this white car. The reason being is that it was seen speeding by an AEW gas station. I don't even know what that is, but anyway, that's, again, it could be wrong. I was just told it was seen speeding by an AEW gas station / hangout at 3:45.
Yes, Beth.
Now, if the screen was recorded at 3:38 and the car sped by at 3:45, it's a very tight time frame, but it is possible that the person left immediately and rushed and was seen speeding by. Also, the scream may have been what caused the person to quickly leave. That scream could have been what saved the other 2 roommates' lives.
Wow.
The person knew that they might be detected, so they sped away. Again,
what do you think about that?
I think that's very possible.
Yeah. And that's the whole point. Do not know who this person is speaking on this audio, but let's just say it is this killer, Bryan. He knows what happened, if indeed this is him speaking, and he is speaking in third person, all that old bullshit, knowing exactly what happened, knowing if indeed he knew of the two kids on the bottom, knew if the scream startled his ass, and he said, I got to get the hell out of here in case somebody wakes up. But let's be truthful, you're going to be stronger than the whoever else wakes up because you killed a whole guy. And Ethan was not a little guy. So that should tell you something right there. And I noticed something else too. And I know you all are going to probably scream when I say this. So, because you know, Queen watches everything. Bryan, do you have man boobs?
That's probably from the gaining and losing weight.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Queen noticed that in a photograph. And the first thing I said before I even knew about the weight loss, some said, Queen, he's probably got man boobs. And I don't know what made me think that in the photograph. And I thought, fuck me. Did you hear me? And then listening to the friend speak that he was teased because he had a weight problem, I said, bingo card. Oh, yeah. I got to get these bitches back. Excuse my language. I have fought hard.
Odd. It's so odd, though, to think that he would target people that he didn't know versus the people that actually.
I can't mess with people I know because you got to remember the people that he's met, he may not have had no real negative interaction with them. Can't say because we don't know all the people he's talked to.
Right.
Then, too, he had enough sense studying psychology. You don't shit where you eat. Okay? See, even Bundy knew that at some point. Got to branch out. See, Bundy had enough sense to know I'm picking up people in broad daylight, nighttime, out in the public. So I got to take them somewhere else and dump them off. So that V-dub was getting on from one state to the next. You feel me?
Yeah.
He's dumping them in different states.
Yep.
And was it Bundy or Gacy that said the same thing? I have to go back and look. Something along the lines that he said when he was arrested, which I don't know if that's true. I think I just saw it on News Nation. About was there anybody else arrested?
He said that, yes. That's what they're claiming.
Yeah, there was another one that said the same thing. It's almost like he's copycatting.
Yeah, that's what made me think of it.
What you got to ask yourself is this. What's the truth to that comment? Is he just doing this as a ruse to throw them off, to make them start wondering he's got a cohort, or he's just curious and, hey, you got the wrong guy. Why are you messing with me? Or he did have a co-conspirator. Somebody conspired with them, but he did the deed. Or he had a lookout. Somebody sat in the car while he did the deed and he got in. Stay woke. Who's to say? And then we've got this daddy being in the state picking him up. It's very scary to me. It could be absolutely nothing, but it still shows some type of what I'm trying to say, some suspicion, because you got to question one: when was the car bought, the Elantra? Did he leave Pennsylvania in that car? Number one. If he didn't leave in that car, if he drove to Washington in that car, then one person's going to say, logically, then what's your fucking problem driving back to Pennsylvania if you drove the damn car to Washington? Bingo card.
Or were they trying to get that car out of there?
Well, he couldn't have been able to get it out because at some point, I mean, look, for 1 week at least, you drove it around.
Yeah.
Before the bolos got put out on the car. So you were confident to still ride around for a week in that damn car. But I get what you're saying. When the bolo got out, ding, 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 I got to call daddy.
Yeah. That's what I'm wondering if happened. Hey, they've done released the car. You know, they don't know if it's the suspect.
So let's go there. What did he say to Papaw to get Papaw to touch down and help him drive the car back? Because you have to ask yourself, that's very suspicious to me. And wouldn't a parent say, you drove the car out there? Let's just say he drove it. Let's say he didn't buy the car in Washington. Son, you drove the car there. What's the problem with you driving back? I'll wait.
Right. That's what my mom would tell me. You drove it there, you can get it back.
Yeah. Brittany?
I don't know, other than he's probably very manipulative and could come up with
So
something.
you got a parent that gullible. Let's not talk about the laundries because I got to bring y'all that information.
Oh yeah, I did read
Oh my God, I gotta go live about that. Are we now talking about Bryan laundry situation? Mom and dad had knowledge you killed that girl.
Mm-hmm.
Let me help you get this car back to Pennsylvania.
Yep. That's what I'm wondering.
I don't know.
Andrea says, my theory is father suspected, noticed son was acting odd. He asked his son he was covering. Beth, yeah, evil exists is where I'm getting this information from. That's who I'm playing the content from.
I mean, because you would think that with the location of him being in Washington,
that's a long way. That's just not your 2-hour. My tummy hurts, daddy, mommy, can you come? And that still wouldn't make no sense because I can tell you right now, if you call me right now and you're my kid and you're 2 hours away, I ain't going to fucking try to fly nowhere to come. For what? You're not dying. See where I'm going?
Yeah, you'd have to give me a really, really good reason.
Dying. You're talking about halfway across the country. There's something wrong here. You got to make this make sense. This is not your average, your kid don't feel good. You fly one place to try to get a cheaper flight or get close to the location. Something's off. You're talking about 2,500 plus miles. Why would I fly across the country? You know how expensive that is? Even one way is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Fly all the way to the Pacific Northwest to help your kid drive back. What reason did he tell his daddy to come fly all that way and then drive him back? What was his plan? Did he plan to return back? He's finished his paperwork for his first semester. Was he going to bail out? Was he going to transfer to another university? Did he just drive all that way, get them to help him to just dump the car there, then maybe fly back without the car? But then when I ask you, well, why are you leaving your car here? See, the questions abound.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I'd love to know his relationship with his family. Like if he typically came home for Christmas,
knew after the fact he was trying to cover. He had to get the car out of that state. Yes, that's the part I will agree, Andrea. He called to get that car out of, the state ASAP. But still, make Queen understand the logic behind me fucking paying all this money to help you drive that car all the way back. What did you tell your daddy why you need him to help you drive? Because we're not talking about you're sick and you a few hours away and you say, well, mom, dad ain't feeling good, or I want to come home, but I'm too sick to drive. When your parents just say, well, honey, don't worry about coming. Just stay there till you feel better. Bingo card. Come on with it, Queen.
Right.
Ding. Andrea says, Dad, no. Well, let's go there. Are we talking about another Bryan Laundrie situation? You do have fucking knowledge he killed those kids. He went on and told you that, hey, they're looking for my car. I think they think I killed some kids. And then I would say, well, why would they think that? I haven't heard anything about it because from my understanding, people weren't even talking about it in the town in Pennsylvania. This is why I keep telling everybody, people don't watch social media. These cases I talk about, do you know the people I have mentioned them to? They don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. Some of the people are like, I don't know anything about what you're talking about. I ain't heard about Summer Wells, and they live right here in the state of Tennessee, and they didn't know about Summer Wells. They didn't know about Eliza Fletcher. Do you hear what I'm saying to you?
Yeah, I can definitely believe that.
Exactly. There's people who do not pay attention to stuff that don't concern them. And that is how many people navigate. That is how narcissists navigate. It don't concern me. I don't know nothing about it. Now, you want to talk about Pookie Ray Ray got shot? Oh, I'm all in that. See where I'm going? I'm all into that. But anything else? Hell no. I don't know nothing about what they're doing over there on Front Street in Idaho or Memphis. You see, there are people who are really just like this guy. And you talk to him every day. And I can attest to that. And that's why that information I brought you from the FBI said, not all psychopaths are killers. Not all killers are psychopaths. Exactly. Because I talk to every day. I know some people right now that have no empathy for right now. If I called and told them your house burned down, let me tell you what they'd say. Oh, so why are you telling me?
What's that got to do with me?
Huh?
What's that got to do with me? Yeah.
Exactly. I know somebody like that right now who will say it. Well, I'm just going to tell you, if it ain't about Knoxville and it ain't got nothing to do with what's going on in East Knoxville or blah, 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 basically saying the black folk territory, I ain't concerned. That's some cold shit to say. But that's their opinion.
And looking at him, I feel like he looks scary, but at the same time,
But isn't that what some of you said about Jeremy? Come on with it now.
Yeah, but in my opinion, it wasn't him because he was just putting himself out there too much. It was just too obvious that he wasn't the one, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
I've read the comments about Jeremy. I get a lot of, I tweet back and forth on Coffin Daffer's page on Twitter and they'll tweet back. And that's one of the things that was said about Jeremy. Oh, he's creepy. He looks scary, but he ain't the guy. So
that's kind of what got me wondering. Do I think he looks creepy? Because
and that's my point is he only looking creepy to you because somebody told you he killed these kids. But if you saw him in the lineup somewhere else and didn't know nothing about this, would you say the same thing?
I'm not so sure, to be honest.
That's my point. Exactly.
It's interesting for sure.
Andrea, yes, until it comes to their own doorstep, they want all the sympathy. Exactly. Those people, I know people like that. They only talk about the shit that happens to them, their friends, their family, but you better not go to them talking about nothing else that happened in the news. A building fell down. It got crushed by a bulldozer. What's your point? Why are you talking to me about it? It's not my concern. I don't care. My thing is how you're different. Let me finish the last bit of this because I want to still play some other stuff. I'm about running out of time, but we'll go ahead and roll with it.
I'm going to jump down. If you're still on, I'll be back.
Okay. Thanks, Brittany.
Okay. I just pray for these young people. I hope they rest in peace and that their families can find peace after this horrible crime. And I hope that the person who committed it can be brought to justice. Thanks a lot.
All right. Evil exists as the source of that information. The person is talking about the kids resting in peace, prayers to the family. Now, just imagine this is this guy speaking. Do not know if it's him. Not claiming that it is. I'm just playing you this content because it's interesting. And I expected the killer to be speaking about the murders because we're in a digital age. And as some of you have said in the chat, he's going to want glorification for his work. Go ahead, Ann.
Oh, on which part? I'm sorry.
Do you think this is the guy?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Because of the glorification and.
Okay. Andre in the chat says, I didn't think it was Jeremy, although the killer was a stranger. Well, and that's why I always tell people, that is the scariest part about murders, is it being a stranger. As you heard, statistics I brought to you from the FBI, that most killings are done by people that are known to the victim. But there is that rare occasion that it is a complete stranger. And with social media, you're probably going to have more stranger, abductions, killings, because of fascination with people they're seeing on IG, Facebook. And I could say that I've had people reach out to me on other social media platforms. And my thing was, okay, you only want to talk to me because you saw my picture. I had a guy say that to me. I just saw your picture and you're real pretty. And I was just like, what? That's just crazy to me. You know what I mean? It is. Even though we know of some of the same people, but it doesn't matter that I know of these same people. Those people aren't my best friends. And so he had made a comment saying that to me. He said, well, what's the problem? Some of the same people I know. And so I thought, so that's a reason why I should want to date you?
Like they're window shopping or something.
Well, he was window shopping. You just picked me out of the profiles and said, I'm going to send her a friend request. It wasn't really that. It was that people that we knew. It wasn't until I saw that you knew some people I knew, and then boom, you're watching all my photographs and videos, this and that. Then it's like, okay, Wow. All I'm just gonna say, you don't know people. And let me tell you, he still sends requests trying to get into Queen's peripheral. But it's just conversations I've had with him, I didn't like, and he's just not my taste. He's not my taste, just from things I've learned about him. Some things he's done in his past that I'm not on board with, and it's just a road I don't want to travel down. And that is my choice. So that's my choice.
And we have that right, but I guess some people, you know.
Let's talk about his past. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I guess some of them, the rejection, and if they have a low
it's
self,
overpowering. Yes. That's why you have to be careful about telling people things and personal things about where you live and this and that. Because like I said, here in the South, people talk a lot. And that's one question I've learned that a lot of men here in the South ask. They'll ask, where do you live? And you could say, oh, I live in Knoxville. And the next question is, where in Knoxville? I don't have to tell you where. Because even if you tell them what side of town, let's just say, oh, I live on the South side. Then the next question still comes, where on the South side? Well, why do I need to tell you where when I don't even know you like that to tell you exactly where I live? If I tell you I live in Knoxville, that should be enough. You don't need to know where exactly. If we're just now starting to talk to each other, I don't know where this conversation is going to go, where it's going to lead. So I don't need to give you no exact location of where the hell I stay. And we're going to talk about that now in this commentary pertaining to his interaction, I believe, at the brewery back in Pennsylvania. Here we go. This is Evil Exists as well as the source. This guy makes creepy comments. Keep an eye on him. This is from somebody that worked at the brewery back in Pennsylvania where he was trying to, I guess, get his flirt on with the ladies at this bar. Hold on.
Has been arrested and is believed to be the only suspect in the Idaho 4 case. It's interesting to see how many people come forward, sharing encounters they've had with him. We've seen posts from people that went to school with him, and some were told not to speak to the media, since they could be called as character witnesses. This one report that emerged this morning stood out to me. It seems like this could be a pattern of behavior, but only this time he decided to take things a lot further, resulting in the killings. Bryan allegedly frightened the women staffers at a Pennsylvania brewery near his hometown. Several months ago, Kohberger visited the Seven Sirens Brewing Company several times, harassing the women who worked there. The owner said that Bryan, who usually sat alone at the bar observing and watching, stood out for his interactions with employees and patrons. They have a system at the brewery where staff members can add notes about patrons, and the staff put in there, hey, this guy makes creepy comments, keep an eye on him. He'll have 2 or 3 beers and then just get a little too comfortable. Kohberger would ask women staff or customers who they were at the brewery with, and where they lived. If the women weren't interested, he would get upset with them a little bit. He once called an employee a bitch when she declined to answer his questions. The owner confronted Bryan, and he appeared shocked, as if the owner had confused him with someone else. Bryan sat down, had 1 beer and never returned to the brewery again. I'm actually wondering if this has something to do with where the girls worked. Could it be similar pattern, but only this time, he got obsessed, stalked them, and then ended up killing them since he couldn't handle rejection. Drop your thoughts down below.
Evil Exists is the source. If these allegations are true about somebody saying something negative about Bryan at this brewery, one would ask, was he scouting then? Number 2, did this abundance of rejection, a few times of rejection, led him to go over? Number 3, studying psychology, the mindset of criminals pushed him over to see what it's like to write his paperwork thesis, whichsoever, however you word it. I think that was good that they had a system, because I think many establishments need to have a system of anything said derogatory, whatever. We clock the person coming in. We get a good bullseye view of who they are. Do a little snooping of who they are and where they live in case later we need it to give to authorities. Go ahead, Ann.
I believe he was probably rejected in Pennsylvania, obviously rejected in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Went out there, rejected, and this is, he feels, maybe possibly feels like, well, ladies are give me the FU, so this is my FU back to them.
Yeah.
And they work in anger, like that commentary you gave from the FBI.
Yeah. You know, we have all liked somebody or been interested, saw a nice looking guy, lady, wanted to speak to him or her. They were not interested. They let you know, or they just didn't really commentary, or they acted like they liked you or wanted to talk to you, gave you their number, didn't follow through. You know, various ways of communicating with human beings. But there comes a point when you have to accept the fact that they're not interested. And I know that women, sometimes we are known to be emotional creatures, and we latch on quickly to people. Hello, Joelle. Thank you for joining me. Happy New Year. We latch on to people. But as you get older, there comes a point when you need to learn, hey, it ain't nothing. He ain't talking. He ain't responding. He ain't calling. You move on.
Right.
And even at this late age, it can be a learning curve to say, hey, I've got to stop this. This person isn't interested. But do I go out here and plot his death? Plot her death? You understand what I'm saying? Go out here and just kill people because the guy I wanted doesn't want me. The girl I wanted doesn't want me. When do you cross over? And that's something I told you all I've been wanting to discuss. What is the crossover point? When does the person say, I've had enough of being rejected, mistreated, and I'm just going to go out here and shoot people, which you've seen with many people doing, this type of behavior on jobs, schools, which is considered mass shootings, mass murders. They're mad at the world, so they just shoot everybody on site at their job, venue. And his situation is not considered, I guess, a serial killer because he killed people at one location. And I brought that information. So if anybody wants to get verification of that information, please check out this video at the beginning stages. It's a bit winded, but it's giving you information on serial killers and the motivation and myths about serial killers and mass murderers. It's still diabolical, as I've told the chat before. Whether you want to believe whatever the motive is, in the end, the motive is never going to matter because 4 people are dead. It doesn't matter to them because they're dead. It doesn't matter to their family because they're going to always say, well, what did my kid do to you? Well, why would you kill my kid? And even when people know of each other, that's the first question. Well, still, why did you kill my daughter, my son, my nephew, whatever? He didn't do anything to you. She didn't do anything to you. It's the theory from the person, their ideology. Because their ideology and what you think are 2 different things. 2 people who have never met, he still could tell the world, hey, she pissed me off. He pissed me off. That's why I killed him. I don't need a reason. And that's where we get it confused as human beings. We're always looking for a motive. We're looking for a reasoning. But as I brought you commentary pertaining to law enforcement, they said, I watched it the other night, watching the John Wayne Gacy tapes. I believe it was his own defense attorney said, there's times these people kill and they don't even know why they did it. They don't even know why. So let me ask you this. Do you think he knows why he killed those kids?
It could be just an obsession he has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's not wired right.
Well, he's not wired right because anybody that knows they got your DNA at the scene and you're sitting there saying, yeah, I'll waive extradition. I want to come back and I want to fight it. Do you know what I'm saying here? He's going to be like that crazy ass guy that mowed those people down at that Christmas parade. He's going to want to defend his damn self.
Oh, boy.
I'm serious.
I know.
He's going to want to defend his damn self. Oh, yeah, I'll be my own lawyer. You know what they say about a person defending themselves, don't you? You have a fool for an attorney.
Like Bundy. Wasn't it Bundy? Yeah.
Well, he was studying law.
Yeah.
So who better to defend themselves but a law student that I believe flunked out? Mind you, he flunked out. He flunked out of law school. Oh man, not to make light of this, but this is so sad to me. It's very sad. Do you think he wore gloves?
You would think he would by studying criminology and
so that glove that Mr. The other YouTuber found, he and his wife, do you believe that glove is relevant to the case?
You wouldn't think it would be his. He'd be that sloppy, but
Okay. Let's hear some more from Evil Exists. She knows Bryan Kohberger. Here's a friend speaking.
Year 2022, with an arrest in the Idaho 4 murders. It must be a relief to many, knowing Bryan Kohberger is off the streets. It definitely makes me wonder why he did this. Was he the stalker? I know for a fact that he had multiple Instagram profiles and followed the girls on there. This lady came forward claiming to know him. Take a look.
Let's stop right there. That I missed that part. Why would you have different Instagram profiles? Stay woke. Hello?
hello?
And?
Why would you have different Instagram profiles?
Uh-huh.
So you can take your mask off on one and keep it on in the other?
Yeah, but think about this. Why would I need different profiles? Unless I was up to no good.
Right.
Okay. You get to talking crazy, block me, boom, I pop up. Kind of like in the chat when you see all that sex stuff popping up. Then next thing you know, somebody pops up with some more crazy nonsense and they keep saying, oh, I got more accounts. I can change my name, because that's what a sick person does.
Right.
So he's no different. If indeed he had difference. Exactly, Tracy. Better to stalk with. So what if we find out, yes, he had different social media accounts, different phones. That shows cause. Hello, Linda. That shows cause that you have been deliberately making profiles for nefarious reasons. So maybe that's why he's tired coming into class. Besides he's supposed to be doing his homework, he's doing other things to aid in crimes.
And stalking and all that.
Exactly. Because what's going to be scary if we find out he's committed other crimes? That's going to be very devastating. Let's finish this. It's not long.
Claiming to know him. Take a listen.
I am just in absolute shock right now. I was heading to lunch when my mom called me, and immediately I knew something was off because I have the type of family that we don't call each other. So if someone does call someone, we know something's bad. She called me and asked me about the murders. I didn't know where she was going with it until she said that it was Bryan Kohberger, and naturally I freaked out and called out 8 of my friends. My brother was really good friends with him. My other friend Brandon was really good friends with him. I'm gonna have a picture of him with him on the green screen as well. I'm shaking still, but anyway, let me show you. This is Brandon, the one I was just talking about. It's his wife Brianna, and that's me. This was back in 2017. Obviously, that's Bryan. Still has the dead face that it's thighs. I don't know. But when I spoke to him back in 2017, he was clean. He was a heavy heroin user back in high school, and it was just nice to see the kid clean up. And at that time, he said he was doing security detail. I believe it was out of school, is what he told me. But he seemed like he was better. Obviously, that wasn't true. Here's another picture from a party that we had at Brandon's house. That's Bryan there. He used to be a bigger kid as well. But again, that's him. And then at the same wedding, I'm here, but he's back there. He was out sitting at the same table as me and my mother. But he is back there enjoying a drink. I was sitting right next to him when we talked. He seemed fine. My mom sent me the old school yearbook. That was him. Bryan Kohberger, that's him. He went to Pleasant Valley. Graduated with, I think, my friend Crystal, a year younger than me. This is when he nonchalantly decided to make me drive him around the Poconos for heroin, and I had no idea. I thought I was just doing a nice deed because he needed something, and it turns out that he was getting heroin. Sorry, I'm like,
oh, that's crazy.
My voice is shaking. I might make a part 2. I probably have to. I don't have a 6-minute feature. I only have a 3-minute feature. I also talk really fast, so I'm sorry. Find out what surprises.
Sorry about that, you guys. Wow. Driving him around to buy heroin. What do you think about that? driving him around to buy heroin, dead face in one photo, which I told you that's not anything. A lot of people don't smile. Do you think he was drug induced while killing the kids?
That could be a possibility.
Yeah, because he looks very frail in his recent photographs, school pictures. You know, anything could change within a month or two. People gaining weight, losing weight. So I'd have to ask myself, you know, in his photograph at the Pennsylvania jail, he does look more frail. His eyes are more open. In his earlier pictures of him earlier in life, you have to ask yourself, when those pictures were taken, he looks more alive. You know, his eyes are wider. I noticed his eyes were wider, but he looks more drawn in, jawline sinking. That's from, you know, losing weight in your face. Perhaps he is an active drug user. And could that be a possibility to him killing the kids? I've also brought you commentary that a lot of crimes are, serial killers are financial driven. And at first I had to check myself like, damn, what do you mean? Because you just rarely hear that it's financial driven. But many killers have been known to, take things from the victim if indeed it was sexual or hate driven. So, and then there's some crimes that are actually just for monetary gain. Robbing the people, boom, go get the next person. Kill them, rob them, boom. Kill the next person, rob them.
From his appearances, it does look like he's been on some kind of amphetamine.
Okay, does he? Okay.
Like Adderall. I know that's not a big college where you can study all night. Or
yeah, I can see that she's nervous. Now I've read some commentaries where people think she's clout chasing. She's just doing this for attention. But the point is, you know, many people would probably speak up because, as I said, we're in a digital world where people like to talk. And I'm sure many of them have been warned not to speak to the public, but she's spoken. And do you think she's clout chasing, this lady here?
I don't think so, with trying to, bring out, hey, this is what he did in the past, trying to give insight into Bryan, give us a snapshot or picture of his history.
Yeah.
What type of person he is. And those types, they won't care about any law or any morals or anything.
But that's the whole point. Who's to say that this is more than just the psychology side of it? I want to see what it's like for my paperwork for school. Who's to say he would have done this even if he wasn't studying psychology? You also hear that he was a security guard or did security detail at a school or something. That is one thing we've heard about many people who have become, we've seen with guys who popped off with shooting people, such as, the boy that did the killing up there in Wisconsin. They're always want to be in an authoritative position. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You have seen that a lot with serial killers, random shooters, people who shot people and thought they were standing their ground, this and that. They always wanted to be an authoritative. They either wanted to go to the police academy, didn't get accepted, or wanted to be a police officer. So this shows perhaps he wanted to be in an authoritative position by even doing the security.
Right. And now a teacher's assistant where he's obviously grading papers, possibly. That would be in the same position.
Yeah. But don't you find it scary that he was around people? So long as you're living, you're around people.
Right.
Doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're working at McDonald's, you're the garbage man. It's all the same. You got to live somewhere. You got to eat somewhere. And you don't know people. You've seen this time and time again with people who murder people. It doesn't matter if they kill one, they kill 12. They were human. They were living around people. They were talking. They were interacting with people. They were soliciting people, whether it was prostitution, paying for sex, trying to date, trying to meet, date sites, flirting with people in public places, private places. It's very scary. Somebody said she didn't speak out. They still talk BS. She showed pictures as receipts. I don't think she's clout chasing. She's in shock too. Yeah, she probably is in shock. She probably, and I'm glad she showed the pictures, not just to be somebody just sitting up here saying, I know him, blah, 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 because anybody can say they know somebody. She's got pictures of a high school yearbook, which, we can get that anywhere too. But to show a real photo of her in it, with him in it, shows they didn't know of each other. They were in the same room at one time when they were younger. But one thing I've told people in my commentary pertaining to this case earlier in this live is that who you start out at 12 years old, 18 versus 28, that's two different people. We heard that about Scott Peterson. Oh, he was a great guy in high school. He was this. Well, you knew somebody at 17, 18. They ain't the same person at 20, late 20s and early 30s. People change.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, people change. You can't judge somebody from high school versus 28 years of age. You got to remember, this same person you all said was bullied and was awkward. Well, now he's talking to people and boisterous. Now, did he start talking to people after he killed these kids, or he was trying to fit in? My understanding is that he was trying to fit in back in August when he moved out there to do the graduate program. Somebody has spoken on that. He tried to fit in. So he was obviously, allegedly, trying to make his way into the world of conversation before killing the kids. And maybe that's what his problem was. He was awkward. He didn't know how to talk and converse properly. He was putting on a facade that he was a nice guy, professional guy. But deep down inside, he had a hatred for people. He had a hatred for women, perhaps. He was mad that he wasn't the guy to get the nice looking girl, the pretty girl. That's what he's always wanted, was to feel validated. But we know in life that even if you get that guy, that girl, that's not going to be enough. You understand what I'm saying? It's just like the nice car, the nice house, the nice home, this perfect existence you're trying to carve out for yourself, the perfect little children. It will never be enough. My dad told me that once. He said, you can get $1 million right now. It won't be enough.
Right.
No.
Right.
My thing was, well, give me the $1 million and let me see. Let me get the $1 million and let me decide if it's enough for me.
Yeah, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. No, and we do not know if this is his first kill or not. I brought you commentary pertaining to that through experience, the person becomes cocky and arrogant. So is this his first kill? Who is Bryan C. Kohberger? Has he killed before? Did bullying lead him to become a killer? Rejection from girls, women. He's holding on from childhood trauma, high school trauma, being teased, bullied. I brought you commentary here just a minute ago that he was teased as a child, high schooler. He had weight on him. Is he acting out? Has he decided, well, I'm going to turn the tables. They don't like me. Nobody likes me. I try my best to be different. It's not good enough. Very interesting.
Or maybe he felt like, well, I've already got my master's degree. I'm working on my doctorate. Everything I do is never good enough.
Good enough. And that actually could be what's going on here. That he's trying to be somebody that he's not. Let's talk to one of his other little friends. This is a classmate speaking of pertaining to him. He always seemed perpetually exhausted.
Looking back at the home following the homicides overnight in Moscow, Idaho, I did notice that he was showing up to class a little late sometimes. He always had a coffee in hand. He always seemed to be just perpetually exhausted. And most of that, as a graduate student, that is not unusual. That is fairly normal. It didn't raise any red flags at the time. And like everybody in a graduate program, there's a little bit of awkwardness. You're trying to fit in. You're trying to find release. And Bryan Kohberger fit that. He was awkward. He was trying to fit in. He was trying to get his inroad into this group and establish these social bonds with other members of the cohort. But now looking back in hindsight, having these allegations come almost entirely out of left field, all of that feels less like normal trying to fit in, and it just feels unsettling.
News Nation is the source. So tired, bringing a coffee to class all the time. I also heard he was late a lot. This is what he's saying. He was late a lot. So what was going on? Coursework too heavy. His mind tainted with other things. What was going on with Bryan? What was he doing? What was he doing?
All that creeping and
yeah, because we don't really know what he's been doing since August. It's very scary.
And they've said from the get-go they believe that house was targeted. So
Yeah.
he's probably calculated all that out in his mind, no telling how many times.
Yes.
Before he actually struck.
Yeah.
Now of the arrest and the murders of 4 Idaho college students. Correspondent Evan Lambert has been looking into the background of the suspect, this man, 28-year-old Bryan Christopher Kohberger. Evan joins us live from Washington, D.C. with these new details. So, Evan,
I think
what
that
all have you
10-minute
been able
video.
to uncover?
I could be wrong.
Well, Nicole, we're starting to get a better picture of Bryan Kohberger through online and other records, but also from someone who says that he knew Kohberger, our affiliate in Pennsylvania, speaking with a man who says that some years ago he ran with Kohberger on a regular basis. Listen to his reaction to the news that Kohberger was arrested and charged for these murders in Moscow, Idaho.
I used to go on night runs with him because, like, I didn't want to go running at night by myself. So I would text him, like, hey, you want to go for a run? We go for 6-7 mile runs at night. So, like, when I saw who it was, I was just in, like, complete shock. I'm still kind of, like, shaking knowing about that. Like, it's just unreal to think somebody could actually do that to somebody. Like, it's absolutely, like, mind-boggling. Like, my adrenaline's still kind of running after finding that information out. So, just, I feel for the families, and I'm just happy justice can be served now, so.
And we have also learned that Kohberger studied criminal justice at an advanced level, having gotten a master's from DeSales University in Pennsylvania in 2022, according to the school there. He appears to once have posted on Reddit asking for volunteers for a research project where he was studying the criminal mind, and he wanted to know specific things about the emotional and psychological considerations for people who had been convicted of crimes, asking questions in a survey like, why did you choose that victim? What was the first move that you made? How did you leave the scene? So very eerie, knowing he is now accused of going through all those thoughts, having committed 4 murders, according to police. Now, he is currently a PhD candidate in criminal justice at Washington State University in Pullman, which is very close to Moscow, Idaho. A friend telling News Nation that he went to Pleasant Valley High School in the area near the Poconos. This is near that scene where he was arrested this morning. A news article from the local paper and school district documents tell us that he later worked there as a security guard. So a strange background for someone to now be accused of such gruesome crimes. Now, we also were able to confirm through county records out in Idaho that someone of the same name, same age, so it appears to be this suspect Kohberger, had been stopped on a seatbelt violation in August. So if these charges against him are true, that means that he would have at least been in the Moscow, Idaho area at least twice. Nicole?
And Evan, you confirmed that he did receive a master's from DeSales University there in Pennsylvania. That's also where he received his bachelor's degree as well, 2 years prior.
Yeah, so a bachelor's degree in 2020, graduating in 2020 in psychology. Then he went on to study criminal justice criminology for a master's, according to the program for the commencement in May 2022. The school telling us in a statement that he graduated in June 2022, but we were able to find that document as well. And then we know he was continuing his studies in Washington State, really just across the Idaho state line as a PhD candidate in that same subject, criminology and criminal justice.
Yeah, criminology, criminal justice, and a bachelor's degree in psychology. All very interesting tidbits there. All right, Evan Lambert live for us in DC. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find
News Nation is the source, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Friend who knew him back in Pennsylvania, offered for him to run with him at night. So what was his ideology while running at night? Being able to watch windows, people coming and going in the night. Was his mind in the rotation of killing when this guy asked him to run with him? So you have to ask all those questions. When did he decide that he wanted to become a killer? Back in Pennsylvania or when he got to Washington State? Has he always thought about killing as a child, teenager, young adult? We don't know. Who is Bryan C. Kohberger? When did he decide that life was unimportant, not valuable, and his life was more important? The fact that he wanted to be a security guard, we have learned that with many killers and serial killers, that they want validation, and seeking to become a security guard, police officer has been on the high list, and many could not become a police officer. So they wail in that. Oh, they didn't choose me as a cop. Well, he's lucky to be alive, but the point is, what has he been doing? If he hasn't been doing anything overt to draw any attention to anybody hurting or harming him. You know, a lot of people talk smack, talk crazy. People don't kill him. So this, you have to ask yourself is, when did this person come into this ideal of, I want to hunt humans as prey? Was it because of the schooling? Or it was always in him? What do you think, Ann? Always in him, or he was made into a killer?
I believe he was made into a killer, and then something tipped him over the edge.
Such as? What tipped him over?
The rejection.
Wow. Okay.
The stress of that level of,
okay.
You know.
Somebody else suggested something. He was set off by somebody. Possibly it could be. Who's to say? But it's scary nonetheless. It's very scary. I'm trying to bring you all the content. Anything I don't mention in this live stream is posted to my community board pertaining to this case. Let's hear what they have to say pertaining to the family and what they knew. Very interesting. I do believe they didn't tell them much, the Gonsalves and other family, because they didn't want anything being leaked out and mentioned as far as having a suspect in mind.
Excruciatingly painful day for your clients, I can only imagine. Can you tell me how much they knew prior to this morning's arrest about what was going to happen?
Well, we were contacted last night by Moscow PD, so they gave us a phone call, and then they gave us some more details this morning. So we knew before everyone else did, so they did a good job of contacting the family.
Well, that is actually quite remarkable, right? Given the fact that they were going to execute that arrest warrant early in the morning. And so did they get effectively the play-by-play as it was happening, as they caught the suspect, brought him in, cuffed him, put him into the cruiser and processed him back at the station in Pennsylvania?
No, it was, the information we received is that they had found someone in Pennsylvania that they had arrested and had a suspect in custody. Didn't give us really any more information than that. Immediately contacted the family and spoke with them, obviously, relieved to a certain degree and hopefully and optimistic that this is the right person and they're going to, it's a whole nother process now, starting the criminal justice process now that they have someone in custody. So
arguably, as you know, being a litigator for a long time and having worked in murders as well, this is the most painful part of the process because it's lengthy and it's detailed. And it is uncomfortable, and oftentimes the information is not something that, anyone ever imagines they'll have to actually look at or assess on their own children. Is there anything that the family can think of that would be a connection, a nexus between this suspect and these four kids? And you and I talked about the fact that they didn't think that Kaylee had any connection, but what about Maddie, Ethan, Xana? Any thought about the connections here?
Well, like everyone else, we just found out this morning. So I think that's part of the Moscow Police Department, giving the press conference today, asking for more information about this Kohberger kid or guy. and wanting more information about him. I think it's probably trying to help them out, form these connections. If there are connections, or if it's random, or whatever it is, the idea that he was a Washington State University student and lived less than 10 miles away. The idea that there might be a connection with one of the 4 victims in the case is probable, at least in passing, somehow. So.
Okay, the other question I have is Kaylee's sister, Olivia. Did she have any knowledge of this person, or knowledge of someone who might know this person?
Well, I think everybody's trying to track down what those connections might be. I don't know if anybody's confirmed what those connections might be, as far as whether he, ordered from the restaurants that they worked at, or he was at a party. I mean, who knows? I think those are all things that the police are probably going to try to track down within the next several weeks. And the Moscow, the town itself will try to track that down. And now that they have a face and they have a name, it's much easier to make those connections and try to make those connections with the victims in the case.
So another question I have is about the technology, because this is so helpful in this day and age to be able to use someone's phone, to go into their contacts, to go into their text messages, their Snapchat, their Instagram. Is there anything at all? Are they doing this at this point? Can they get access to all of Kaylee's information to try to do this kind of digital forensic connection investigation?
I'm assuming that they do. They have the electronics. They have all of Kaylee's electronics. At least they've said that they do. And so I'm sure that that's something that they'll go through. They'll probably go through Ethan's and Kaylee's and Maddie's and Xana's, all of their contacts and all of their social media and posts and things like that, and find if there's any connection with this guy in any way, and then try to work their way back. So that's part of the investigation, I think, right now. So.
And of course, we know other cases where it is oftentimes the case they just have no connection at all. Shannon, please, if you would, pass on our condolences and our thoughts to the Gonzalez family and the other families as well. If you have the opportunity, justice is coming, but it is a very painful stage, and we're very appreciative of your time tonight. Thank you. Thank you for watching.
She was quite polite, I guess, under the circumstances of Mr. Gonzalez and his issues with the police department. But I wanted to say this at the beginning of this live stream. I want to thank Moscow Police Department, the FBI, and the state police for their diligent work. Whether we believe they dropped the ball in the beginning, we don't know all the intricate details. But in the end, 6 weeks in the making, they brought forth the suspect. And really it was earlier than 6 weeks, because somebody gave video footage pertaining to this car. Somebody may have called in, seeing him come or go out of the house late, or acting suspicious, or talking suspicious. We do not know if there are other co-conspirators or anybody else was inside of the car. You see, the thing about modern technology, we have doorbell cameras. We don't know if someone saw a figure going and coming out, lying in wait, pacing back and forth. We do not know. We do not know. And that's going to be interesting as well, to see what is said via someone's eyesight, not just video surveillance. So let me ask you this, and do you think he went to Moscow more than one occasion to case the area and learn where the children lived?
Yes, I do. I do.
Okay. Do you think he knows where the girls worked?
If it was on, I believe it was on one of their
on their Facebook, on one of the pages.
Yes.
Yeah. And see, that's why I said when your page is public, whatever profile you have on social media, IG or TikTok or whatever, once you let it be known where you live, it's not going to be hard for somebody to find you, especially when you're living in a small place of 26,000 people. That's a small town.
Yes, it is.
Okay? So it's not going to be hard to find you. All I have to do is look at a landmark. You keep posting where you live. How long do you think it's going to take for me to find out that exact location of apartment or housing development or general area where you stay? You tell me where you work. You're talking about your job on your social media posts. You're posting, hey, come on down and get you a pizza or a sandwich. Well, now I know where you work. But once I find out where you work, the rest is easy. All I got to do is lie in wait.
Yep.
I could call, wait and see, hey, is Kaylee working, Maddie working, Xana, whoever? And the person says, yeah, or no, they're not here. They're not expected to come in 6. We know that you're not even supposed to be revealing that type of information. But when you live in small towns, people act small townish. Not to be nasty, but it's true.
It's true.
You live in places now where people will still say, yeah, Bob's not in. He don't come in till, because you could call a place and be fishing. You could say, you've already stalked out the victim, and then you could just call and say, hey, yeah, I talked to Bob about my computer, or I talked to Susie about that dress that's on sale, and she said she's going to hold it for me. And the next thing you know, oh, well, Susie ain't here. They slipped up and told it. See where I'm going?
Yes.
She won't be in until 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. Now I know when to go wait on her.
And even like these Facebook yard sales and Craigslist, you have people coming possibly right to your home and buying.
Yeah.
You don't
know. And you know what? I've done it because I've got things on the marketplace now that I'm trying to sell and get rid of, and that is very dangerous.
Yes, it is.
Having somebody come, but hey, I'm going to let them know. I'll meet you at the door with the item, whatever. I'll step outside. I don't need you coming in. I mean, I don't care what the item is. If I got to push it outside, it ain't nothing heavy. I can push it outside. You can look at it out there. I don't give a damn. It's 2 degrees, and that's the thing, especially if they come 4 or 5 deep. If I even see 4 or 5 people coming out, I already know I ain't opening no door to no 4 or 5 people. You coming in here because that's crazy. But you're right. This is how people get hurt. You do have to be careful being on social media now, whether it's a date site, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, posting stuff, telling people where you live, telling people where you work and all that. I would not put that on any profile, where I worked, where I lived. And you see a lot of people now, they'll put up their crazy stuff, Dubai, this and that, because they already know. I don't need people finding me. And I've heard crazy people say, I don't care where nobody know where I live. I don't care that people know that I've been in trouble with the law. And you should. What you mean? You don't know what people will do with that information.
Right.
It's easy to say, oh, yeah, I did that when I was 25 and I ain't been in trouble no more. Well, you get to talking. Somebody knows what you did 25 years ago. They might want to call your boss, and you don't think your boss knows what you did 25 years ago. You see where I'm going?
Yep.
And the next thing you know, you're called in and somebody wants to have a meeting about some criminal record that you never even mentioned, or crazy stuff you've been posting on social media, holding guns and rifles and ammunition. Now you're out of a job. Now you're feeling some type of way. Yeah, you will care.
And there's people that vindictive to do stuff like that.
Well, of course. Yes, I've heard about he having a strict vegan issue. Family members, he's wanting them to not cook food in the pots and pans. He wanted her to go buy new pots and pans, which I thought was ridiculous, because nobody's getting ready to go buy pots and pans because they think you've cooked meat inside of the pots and pans. And that's usually of the Jewish faith. So I'm assuming he's Jewish. I could be wrong, but usually Jewish people separate their food. Allegedly, it's expected for cook your meats in one pan or dish, and then your vegetables and other food in another dish. So they said he was a bit OCD about his food. I did hear that coming from my aunt as well. So I did not know that allegedly the girls worked at a vegan shop. So that's why I'm saying when you post publicly, he could have found them by accident. You understand what I'm saying? Because it's just like right now, I could post something on a social media site. If I post it publicly, anybody can see it. So right now, somebody could just go into Facebook or IG or whatever, and they're looking for something particular. Well, if you've posted publicly, that can come up. So then they could see, oh, somebody was posting about, let's just say, an accident on 15th Street. And then now they go to your Facebook page, whatever. Let's say your page is public. Then they get to see who you are, where you live, where you work, whatever identifying factors you put up there, your friends of friends. And if they decide they want to fixate on you or send you a friend request or whatever, they can. Who's to say this is how he found the girls? One of the girls. He was looking for something particular. Maybe he's been to Moscow to eat, dine. Something was in that town he wanted to patronize, because we all can go to other towns for to go to the movies or to go to a restaurant, to go to a bar, a club. Maybe he crossed over. Maybe, they intersect with each other. And I've told you all that Washington State has a van ride share situation where it goes to the neighboring counties and cities and towns. So he could have easily got on the ride share and went to Moscow. I brought you that in a video the other day, that Washington State has a ride share van that takes them to Moscow and other cities and towns. So he could have learned about Moscow that way. He went there, went to orientation. They told him what's available with the ride share, van share, all the airports, where you can travel to and from to get on the airport, travel, cabs, all that stuff. He learned about Moscow and decided, okay, I'll just take a visit over there on one of the vans, ride over there, see what that town's got going on. And naturally, that's expected, that the school's going to tell you about neighboring universities and schools, even though it's a state over, but it's only 15 minutes away. So that's not really, you know what I'm saying, a big deal.
Right.
For him to learn about Moscow. It's right next door. And he could have, as I said, found these kids just accidentally. Could have came over on the ride share van. Could have gotten his car and said, well, let me go over here to Moscow and see what they're offering, what they got going on. He could have been driving through the town. Could have spotted one of them walking down the street or walking in a business. He could have rode on the campus looking around. He could have actually went there to hunt somebody for his own sick self-pleasure and or to write this paper for his schooling. See, we don't know because we don't know his motivation behind how he came to know these kids and hunt them down and lie in wait. But at some point, we know he's had to have done some type of homework on them, whether he found them by accident or he planned this in finding them deliberately through social media, going to the town, social media posts. He still had to know what was going on inside of that house. Because what is still the obvious question is, the house had at least 5 cars parked outside. He still went in that house.
Yes.
Knowing those cars were parked outside. And let's be truthful. Those cars, some of them look like a guy could have driven them. So put that on paper. Think about that for a second. There are at least 3 SUVs in the parking lot.
Right. And he still went in.
Exactly. So one is going to wonder if he had done his homework on these kids, on this house. The house was targeted, how he came to know of the house, or any of the females or people in the house. Did he drive by, just saw the house, seen some girls coming in, lied in wait, parked across the street or up the street and watch? How did he come to know them? Because in the end, those kids allegedly had a party house, had people coming and going, visiting. Were they warned to stop partying by the landlord, the management company? See, that's another thing I wondered. They got complaints 2 times in one night, September 1st, September 2nd. So did the girls stop partying, stop having company? Is this the reason why he chose the house? Because maybe they stopped having guests over. He had been driving through the neighborhood watching, or he watched social media posts. Maybe they were talking about, oh yeah, somebody's been complaining on us. We've got to cut down on the party. And see, you don't know. That's why I kept telling people, you're not going to really know who the killer is until you knew the victims. We only started getting a glimpse of them a couple of days ago from the body cams from the police. Then boom, here's an arrest. So let me ask you this. How far in advance do you think he planned this?
I'm just guessing possibly a couple of months, maybe.
Really?
I'm just guessing.
Well, that's not a lot because it's just November. It was November when he committed the crime. He didn't get there till August.
That's what I'm saying.
So
He didn't have
September,
long.
October, November, that's not even 3 months. Brittany says, yes, it was very risky and it didn't stop him. Exactly. And that's what's so scary about it. No matter who the perpetrator is, the fact they went in his house, and a lot of you thought it was somebody that knew the victims because of the layout of the house and going there with all those cars parked there. The killer, we now know, allegedly does not know them personally. Let's just say for the record, he don't know them personally. He still took a chance to go to that house and infiltrate the house without breaking in. So really, he was clever just in taking the risk, because that's just bold. It's not saying that any of us can just like go walk up in somebody's house, but what would be our reasoning to just walk up in your house today? Just look at a house and say, okay, I'm going to go walk up in this house, and then do what once I get in there? Even if I saw a pretty house and was curious, I wonder what they look like in there. I wonder what it looks like, and I wonder what kind of furnishings do they have. A part of your mindset is supposed to say, hey, you know, that's wrong. You can't just walk up on the property, then go walk in these people's house. 2, break in their house because you can't get in by an open window or open door. So he didn't care. And that is the scariest part of the story. He did not care. He deliberately carried a knife, because I doubt that knife belonged to any of the victims. He went to this location from another state, even though it's close proximity. He came from another state, jurisdiction, with a weapon, walked in this house, killed 4 people, exited out of there, continued with his studies, and then left Washington State to go to Pennsylvania. And that's the gist of it.
And the way I understand, they're in their central nervous system, it's messed up too. The peripheral part that.
Oh yeah, I've heard that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That really freaked me.
Yeah, there's possibly a defect in the brain, and as I just said, what I just said, I can look at a house and say, "Oh gosh, that looks so pretty. I would like to know what it looks like on the inside." But the part of my brain is supposed to function to say, "Well, you know that would be wrong." To 1, go up on the property. 2, try to make entry.
Right. They're the type that could kill somebody, stuff them in the trunk, get pulled over by an officer, and don't even show any kind of sweat, nervousness.
Well, that's what Dahmer did. Driving erratic, knowing he has dead people parts in the back seat, and talks his way out of it by saying, "Oh, my parents just got a divorce. I'm upset." And he gets a warning, and he's on his way.
Yeah.
Somebody said he could have possibly studied the layout of the house on a website called Zillow. Well, Brittany, that's the whole thing. Several sites show the apartment, because I've showed that in my virtual tour a week ago. So that's the point. He learned of the kids, learned where they lived, and then, as you said, he could have learned the layout through. Exactly. I didn't think about that. But several sites show the house. That is true.
And there's several videos of the kids partying in that house too.
Yeah. And remember, I told you, down the street from the house, you have a bullseye view standing at the corner of the house, in the back of the house. So if I was even just driving by or walking my dog, I would have a view if I was paying attention.
And besides the glove that was found in his video, that other YouTuber, I noticed the gym shoes wrapped up on the electric lines in front of one house done. I know what that used to mean in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I've heard people say that, but I didn't put no value into that.
Okay.
I didn't put no value into this being no type of gang related or anything like that, because we already know he's a professor. So 9 times out of 10, he doesn't have any ties to anything that's gang related or trying to make a name for himself in the street.
Yeah, I always thought that meant that that's a sign or signal to let someone else know, hey, there's drugs sold here, and was this drug related also? That's why I'm wondering if he wasn't drugged up.
But by now, people would have told that in the beginning of the story when the kids got killed. Oh yeah, that's where you can go to score drugs. That's the first thing you heard, is that they had parties. I think you would have heard drugs, even though I know from what I've learned from Caucasian people, the Caucasian people use that word for drugs, is party. I didn't know that's what that meant. So I try not to really use that word, because I don't want nobody thinking I use drugs. You understand what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is, by now, somebody would have came out and said, hey, this is a place where you can score meth, fentanyl, whatever, heroin, or you can go there and get high, crash, blah, blah, blah. That would have came out, because it's a small town. Even though people said, oh, that area is known for drugs. Well, that doesn't mean anything about the area. And I always tell people that you can't judge a place because of what's known to be in an area. People live where they have to live. These are college kids. So they're living wherever the hell they can in Moscow. It ain't got 26,000 people. So common sense should tell you they can't probably afford no high dollar ass rent, $1,200, $1,300 for a 1-bedroom somewhere. So they live where they could afford to live. That does not mean that just because you got a few dope houses or somebody selling weed up the street around the corner means that's what they're into.
Right. Or possibly he might have went there to purchase something.
Oh, the area? You mean the area?
Yeah, to know the area, yes.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. You don't know what he's about. You just know that he's a graduate student. He just got there in August. This is all new information. He does have a previous drug history from his past. He does look gauntlet, but you don't know if that's just from his diet or he's also using drugs, a part of his coping mechanism. See, you got to know who he is. You got to know his blueprint. You got to know his footprint, what he's been doing since he touched down. Did he go to this town to do things nefarious out of his own jurisdiction as not to get caught? And that drug situation is a perfect scenario. He could have went over to this town to see if he could learn about purchasing something if he still was in binding. Very good point.
Right.
And then while he's out hunting for drugs and trying to learn the neighborhoods to see if he can get his ear to the ground on scoring something, he could have crossed the path of one of these girls. See, we don't know. They're going to have to reveal all that in his Google searches, phone searches, computers, devices. If he ever reached out to the girls, messaged any of them on social media sites, if any of the girls rebuffed him, blocked him on their phones, devices, then that's when you can lay out a foundation of who crossed whose path first and who kept trying to contact somebody and how it came to be he ended up in Moscow, Idaho, and killing these kids.
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing. Well, hippie, that's the world we live in. People post things to social media. So that it means your house, Google, the value of the house, when it was last sold, who owns it, who last purchased it, all that's public information. And to me, that's a problem. Because do you really want people knowing that you purchased a house? They can get access to you purchased a house, how much you paid for it, how long you've had it? Do you really want people knowing that?
I know, it's scary.
The Venmo situation, that is public information unless you put it on a private setting. I should have to put that on a private setting if I'm using your app to get money. It's my personal business what I'm getting in my transactions. I thought that was bothersome in defining, and I found that information out talking about the Debbie Collier case. You see, this is what people got to understand about life. Nothing is private. Just like right now, you can go into Facebook and all types of suggestions are going to come up of people that you could friend. Okay. Those friend suggestions are going to come from your contacts, whoever you just friended on another site. They're going to eventually come up in a suggestion as a friend. So let's say you met somebody on a date site and they gave you their phone number, right? Eventually their name is going to come up as a friend suggestion through Facebook.
Right.
Their friends of friends are going to come up as suggestions. Anybody you're friends with, their friends are going to come up as suggestions. There is no privacy.
Right. That algorithm or
yeah. I don't even really know what the hell that means. And I'm on YouTube, but I don't really understand that.
I kind of do, but it's kind of like a tracking system or you can be speaking about the Bahamas. The next thing you know, there's big advertisements. Oh, go to this.
And I've noticed that. And I've noticed that as well. Yes. Now that I can speak of being on certain sites, I've talked about certain things. The next thing I know, yes, an advertisement comes up. But see, that's scary because I think that also comes up when you're searching for certain things. Let's say you want to take a trip to Louisiana and you just said, let me Google Louisiana, motels, hotels. And next thing you know, here comes all this stuff about Louisiana. Now, I can honestly say on my phone, I've been getting notifications for apartments in Moscow.
Oh, no.
Just because I searched the Moscow in the Google search. Now I'm getting notifications for any apartment that's available for rent. And I said, you know what? See, I don't like this. This is dangerous to me.
Yes, it is.
And the fact that people are hacking people's accounts, pretending to be them, stealing their pictures and their photographs, that's personal, because you don't want people stealing your personal pictures and going in, stealing your live streams and stuff, and then pretending to be you on a date site or another Facebook profile or IG profile or Twitter account. You have to be very careful out here. That's why you have to watch everything you attach your phone number to, ordering online. Because I had my bank account compromised last year because I ordered something online. So I haven't ordered anything since, and I haven't had any problems with my bank account being hacked either.
That's what I've tried to tell my elderly father after my mom passed. His credit card got hacked, and
yeah,
they were ordering thousands of dollars up in New York somewhere. And
yeah.
One
And guess where my hacker came from? Washington State. $50 on Amazon.
Yeah, I had to explain to Discover, my mom just passed.
Yeah.
So no, she was not, buying anything from Victoria's Secret.
And you know what's weird? I had 2 phone numbers at that time. So the main number that I was using to give out to just regular people, that number wasn't used on the Amazon account. They used the number that I only use for like important business. So I thought that was interesting. Why they chose to use the one number instead of the number that I would regularly use.
And one was used at a Discover. I thought, well, don't you have to have the physical card? And the lady at Discover said, yeah, they have a way of doing that. If they get that information, they can make a card.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
And see, another thing that's disturbing is that when you go use the cards in the store, they want the PIN and all of that. Okay, you don't need no PIN when you're ordering online, and even online, they ain't even asking for that 3-digit special number that's on the back of the card.
Right.
That 3-digit code. They just want the damn number. See, that's where the problem is with getting your accounts hacked. You're not even asking for that CB such and such number.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you for coming. I'm almost at hour 4. We will do this again. I will bring you more commentary pertaining to this case. As I said, anything I didn't mention in this live stream pertaining to this investigation, I didn't mention the search of his apartment. That was briefly mentioned in commentary. Please go to my community board. I have all the updates pertaining to this investigation, and I naturally will possibly go live tomorrow to bring you updates. Anything I didn't mention, I'll bring it forward in a live stream pertaining to this case. Oh, Tracy says, yeah, got ads for it. Well, and that's the whole point. So it's almost like they can listen to you talking on your phone.
Yeah.
And that's very scary. She said, I talked about stuff and didn't even search for it. Then I get ads for it. Yeah, I've noticed that as well. All I can say is you get anything creepy, such as like they're sending me stuff from FedEx saying, oh, your package has been delivered or redelivered, or please, log into this. Everybody know that's a phishing attempt. Best block it. And it automatically, my phone service says block and report. It automatically reports it.
All right. Oh, that's great.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, and have a wonderful new year. God bless you. Stay safe, and I will go live again. You're welcome to come up and give me your commentary. My next commentary, I wanted to talk about this Gabby Petito mess with the shovel and the mother. This is bad. That's crazy to me.
Yeah. That's extreme enabling. Oh my goodness.
Because I thought to myself, how did they get that information? The family.
I thought it was through the attorney or from the FBI. I can't remember now. I just
no, but it's still wicked,
Yes, it is.
Very wicked. Okay. Thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful week, sweetheart.
You too, sweetie.
Okay, thank you for joining me. Okay, bye-bye. All right, everybody. That's Ann from Kentucky. Sorry about this being so live. I knew it was going to get winded because all that information I brought pertaining to serial killer stats and the FBI.gov. But I wanted to just bring you a synopsis of mass murderers and serial killers and myths pertaining to serial killers, so you can get a little bit of information pertaining to the human mind and the psychosis of an individual that decides to start killing multiple people, because there is a difference between a mass murderer and a serial killer and a spree killer. But I want to thank you all for following the content. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $Beganji, 129 Cash App. Happy New Year to all of you. When I get more updates pertaining to this storyline, pertaining to Bryan Kohberger, any updates or anybody else that wants to speak, I will bring forward that information. And allegedly, he's supposed to touch down Tuesday in the state of Idaho on the said 4 murder charges and burglary. And I will bring you that information. Anything new tomorrow, I will go live and bring you that said update. But tomorrow I'd like to talk about the Gabby Petito case and this new information pertaining to Bryan's mother offering to bring a shovel out west, which is very baffling to me. And we're going to dissect this, because in a lot of cases, the reason why many perpetrators are not brought to justice is because there are people who know that they are diabolical. They do know that they've committed crimes, and they don't tell on them. And I got a feeling that's who the Laundries are. They've enabled their son, his awkwardness, his quirkiness, and possibly saw signs that he was violent, and they didn't do anything, and they didn't give him, what I say, an ultimatum. Hey, can't come around here, can't live here. And we also have to ask ourselves, the fact that they blocked the Petitos and the Schmitz early on when information went out about looking for Gabby, you'd have to ask yourselves, how did they actually feel about her? Because your son comes back in a van that belonged to the girl, and you don't question where she is, and allegedly you're offering to aid him in the crime to cover it up. So that means you had knowledge. If this accusation is true, you had knowledge that he hurt this girl. So one would have to ask the ultimate question. Well, how did you feel about her when she was living? We also know that she lived in your house. So how did you, 1, treat her? 2, what made her want to go live this van life in the middle of the world with this boyfriend? Because my thing is, how long can you live that type of life, traveling in a van, a camper, living in campgrounds? That life isn't for everybody, especially for those of us who are used to running water, sheetrock, covers on a bed, whole bed, refrigerator, stove, microwave, bathtub, toilet, indoor plumbing. You have to have a certain type of mindset to, 1, live out in the great open. So this young girl decided to live this life. Could it be she saw signs that this household she was staying in with the Laundries was not conducive? And maybe she came up with this idea for this van life to escape living in their house. But then one could say, well, she's a young girl. She had viable employment. Why not just go get an apartment with yourself or with this boyfriend? Those are some interesting questions. Why did this girl not want to live in an apartment house with Bryan Laundrie or herself? Was she actually codependent? It felt like she needed this guy, even though she saw signs that he wasn't right. They weren't getting along. The relationship was not working well, but she was a fixer. She wanted to fix it. Maybe he was a fixer as well. I'll just hang in there anyway, even though I see she and I are not getting along. What really happened with their relationship? What happened out there on the fateful day he decided to kill her? And what is the role of the parents of the Laundries, their role in helping their son when he returned? Did they have knowledge that he killed Gabby before he touched down to Florida? Did they ask him? Did he tell it? What all did he say? Did they know he killed her when they contacted this lawyer? A lot of questions. I want to thank you for your time. Happy New Year. And you've been listening to The Vault.